welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay, oh, yay. My name is James Petrogallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I am Jimmy Wissman.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. We have quite the tale for you this week. My God, is this a twisted tale of nudnickery, stupidity, violence, insanity, sadness. It's just a mess, and it's going to be so much fun. We can't wait to get to that. But before we get to that, just want to thank everybody for your iTunes reviews, all your nice messages. You guys are awesome. Thank you. The iTunes reviews mean a lot to us.
Yeah, so keep them coming.
Keep them coming, please. If you're a new listener or an old listener who hasn't done it yet, I know it takes 30 seconds. Please just jump on there and give us a nice 5-star review. Say you're following instructions. Give us some inside jargon that we use. Well, it's fun, and it's a good little thing for us, and it really, really helps us move up the charts. So if you want to help us, that's the way to do it.
Yep.
So thank you guys so much for that. We hope you enjoyed last week, of course, with Russell Erksleben. Jesus, that was a mess of a human, hey?
What a terrible man.
He was a bad person.
Surprising.
Surprising.
I mean,
it's odd that we would cover a bad person,
but
he was more than Murderous.
Yeah.
I got like a thing where, and a lot of people were like, I don't like him. Like people were very responsive. Like murderers are not that responsive.
No.
Anything else, violent people, they're like, that guy was a scumbag. He was pretty funny. That guy, they're like, I don't like him.
Right. It's a given you're
going
to hate a murderer. You're going to hate a rapist.
Yeah.
But a guy that does that kind of financial robbery, theft,
yes.
complete ruining people's lives.
Ponzi schemes.
You're supposed to hate him too.
Yes.
And we want you to know that that's why we're covering him too, because he's just as much of a scumbag as somebody that killed somebody.
Absolutely.
Because he ruined lives.
He ruined hundreds of them. Yes. That's the thing, hundreds.
Stole so much.
You could fill, a large, like a big comedy club with the people, probably for a whole night, an early show and a late show. Maybe a nice weekend. That's good. He can draw, Erksleben. He can draw with people that he's robbed.
Do you hate him? Show up.
Show on up. Good God. So excuse us if both of our voices are a little raspy. I just got done with 6 shows, and Jimmy just got done.
I did one.
With one, but
I did
still.
one sold-out show with the Hodge twins. They're on YouTube. They fucking sold out the club. 600
Good for them,
seats.
man. Good for them.
Packed it out. It was
Good
insane.
God. I just had 6 shows with Pablo Francisco at the Tempe Improv, and I'm ready to die. So we just got done with that. Honestly, the only thing that could keep me from falling over right now from just exhaustion is the fact that this story is so awesome. It's just driving adrenaline through my veins.
20 minutes ago, I called James as I was leaving the club, and he goes, "You're just leaving now?" Like, angrily.
Come on. This is insane.
And now he's excited again.
Do you understand what we have for you tonight? We have Chris Adams, guys. Chris Adams. Christopher Adams. Let's get started here.
I love it.
Born February 10th, 1955.
Oh, he's an old man.
And we'll find out what he is exactly. He was born in Warwickshire, England. He's a very proper English boy.
Oh, yes.
He's very proper, yes, indeed.
Proper indeed.
That's your you sound like a bad Beatles impersonation. It's like
I'm a Beatles intimidator.
An impersonation of a Beatles impersonation. It's like impersonation squared. I don't even know what the hell that is. That's great.
It's a terrible ring. Is
it
Ringo that talked like that? It was Paul.
I think you're doing Paul.
Yeah, I think it was.
Maybe. I think that they all are imitated pretty similarly, I'd imagine.
They're all on the Muppets.
Exactly. But Chris is a nice English boy. His parents, oh my God,
From where?
From Warwickshire, England.
Oh,
Warwickshire,
yes
indeed, is where he was born. It's
Warwickshire,
very proper. Warwick sounds like nothing. It sounds like somewhere in Connecticut or something. But you had the Shire. No, it sounded like something.
Now you got some like Victorian home.
Sounds like a fucking dessert was invented there at that point, doesn't it? Like, oh, that's the Warwickshire fluffer. I like that one. That's delicious. They invented Ready Whip. Wonderful. Chris, as a child, very athletic child.
Yeah.
He starts out with does everything. He does cricket, rugby, all sorts of all your English sports basically. Everything English. He boils meats at a young age. He's a very
so gross.
He's a very proper Englishman.
Thought on
and we love you, UK.
Boiled ham.
What the fuck are you boiling meats for?
Why are you boiling it?
Why? God damn it! Sear that flavor in. What's wrong with you? Sear. Bring a frying pan over there.
Sear or fry. If you're going to dip it in some shit,
broil
just
it,
not water.
Bake it. There's about 8 different cooking methods you can do that are going to be better than boiling it. You guys are like, just throw it on and it's fine.
Throw it in the water.
Yeah. Thanks, Ringo. Okay. So, at
I'm
age...
having so much fun.
This is already good. God, this story's crazy. I can't wait to get into it. This is one of those. Chris started out doing judo at age 9. him and his brother Neil. He's a fighter, and he is a fighter.
All right.
He's everywhere in his life. He's a fighter. It's ridiculous. He has his trigger is alcohol,
awesome,
and his method is fighting. Boy, and drugs.
He's
Let's not pigeonhole the guy to just alcohol. He is also a drug addict.
Anything that's mood altering and encourages fist throwing,
and
he's in.
Other things
Catch
too.
these hands, girl.
He starts judo at age 9 with his brother Neil, and his brother Neil's 3.5 years younger than him. They both started out at the same exact time. They ended up both when Chris was 12 and Neil was 9. They both won national judo championships in their respective weight classes.
That's incredible.
So they're both really good. Their father was a judo guy, so they got it from him. So this Neil ends up winning later on. His brother Neil is going to end up winning 2 Olympic silver medals.
Wow.
In the 80 and 84 games for the UK in judo. And so he's a bad guy. He's a bad dude, his brother. And Chris was too. Chris had Olympic trials in '76 and kind of hung around the team. Didn't actually compete, but was had trials and that sort of thing. He was a 3-time British national judo champ, though.
Jesus.
Chris was. So this is a bad dude we're talking about. Yeah, he's not a pushover.
No.
He ends up being a professional wrestler, which we'll talk about. But he's legit, basically. He's not a guy that goes. He's not an actor that's going in there and going through the motions. This is a guy that could kick your ass
for real.
And he doesn't look like it too. He's a very, very handsome,
extremely
handsome, well-spoken man. When he starts wrestling, his nickname is Gentleman. He's Gentleman Chris Adams.
That's not much of a fighter.
And he's got his Union Jack gear on, and he's Gentleman, a proper English accent, and the girls are screaming. And
a pipe.
And he comes out in a pipe with patches on the elbows, and he solves a murder. So that's what he does. His parents, Gene and Cyril, are the just prototypical, stereotypical, proper, nice English parents. Very supportive. Oh, Chris was very nice at a young age, and they're just very supportive, and they're the sweetest people in the world.
I love it.
I got to see them. There's some footage of them. I found a documentary called Gentleman's Choice. It's about Chris Adams and his life.
Good title.
It was nice. I got some good quotes out of that. Just some supplemental stuff, and got to see. I got to put faces to names and to quotes, which is good because I'd researched it out otherwise, and then I got to see these people, and they are sweet, nice people. Gene and Cyril. I feel for them.
Her name is Cyril?
I believe his name is probably Cyril, and her name's probably Gene.
It's so interchangeable.
It kind of is.
It's kind of a weird... All right.
Yeah. Quit boiling your meats and name your people fucking names that we can understand which sex they are at this point.
Unisex names.
Yeah, a bunch of theys. So Neil says about Chris when he was competing, Chris is a very competitive guy. When he puts his mind to something, he wants to do it, and he's got his mind set to it, and he's not taking no for an answer. Neil says about him, quote, he absolutely hated it that sometimes he wouldn't win it, and sometimes he wasn't the best. He's like, Chris couldn't handle that. Like
not being the best.
He wants to be the best at all times, which is fine. He studies architecture.
He's smart,
in the mid-'70s. Oh, he's a smart guy. He studies architecture in the mid-'70s. He was actually working in the architecture field for the local government while he was going to school and doing it. Yeah, this is how he started out. So he started out a proper nice English boy from a desert town.
Yep.
From a desert town with national judo championships and nice parents named Gene and Cyril, and he's going to be an architect, and he's working for the local government.
Heads up, it's going to go bad.
And then in 1978, here comes the turn.
I love it.
He decides out of the blue, out of nowhere, he's always been a fan, but he just decides out of nowhere that he's going to be a wrestler. Tells his parents, I'm going to be a wrestler. And he's worked it out.
It's my choice.
He's already talked to people, and he's already got in it, and he said they needed to watch TV next week because he's going to be on. By the way.
Wow.
And so they were like, okay.
I'm going to be a wrestler, and I'm already on TV.
And I'm going to be on TV next week. And they said, and the parents were like, and he was on TV next week. Like, look at that. Like, wow, they said that's just what he did. They said if he put his mind to something, there was no stopping him, basically. The way one of his friends in the thing said, in the documentary said, when he put his mind to something, he was going to do it. Whether anybody told him anything or not, he certainly wouldn't listen to reason. He said it like,
Sounds like a comedian.
That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, I swear to God, doing research now, this is the third wrestler we've done.
Yeah.
The lives of wrestlers and comedians are so similar. It's unreal. Like, they go around, they're full of shit. There's
no money at the top.
They're doing the same thing over and over. There's only Seriously, they do the same match over and over again around the country.
Yeah.
There's only money at the top. Everybody else is star.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing, and they have the exact same hang-ups and fuck-ups, and they end up going. It's a weird deal,
They date
man.
shitty women.
They date shitty women. They do drugs. It's alcohol. It's a disaster. But
Wild.
It is. Now, Neil said, his brother, who's been competing with him in judo for years, said that it was strange at first to see him wrestling because it was hard for Chris to adjust to a fake competition from judo. Because judo's for real.
Really fighting.
Yeah, really fighting in the national championship for judo. Someone's trying to kick your ass.
You've got a
working
reason,
together.
a goal.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. So, but he was on right away, the World of Sport television show in the UK.
No ass.
The world is World
Like
of Sport.
In America, it's Wild World, Wide
Wide World of Sports.
There it is.
Yeah, no, this was the World of Sport was a wrestling program. That was their wrestling thing. Was the World of Sport. It wasn't a sports show. It was only a wrestling show.
That's interesting to me that in England they call it sport. When like
sports,
because there's only one.
There's only one. Yeah.
Rugby.
Well, rugby
or
or cricket or soccer.
I guess there's three. Stop what you're just making it one thing.
Ah, you bastards. So he meets a girl named Jeannie after a wrestling show. And this is going to be his eventual wife. And she's going to come back in the public eye a little bit later on, too, because we'll get into her. But
all right.
He meets Jeannie at a bar. And she's
Good
a nice
place to meet women.
It's right after the show. She say exactly. That's where they are sometimes. They tend to be there.
Yeah.
They had a wrestling show. One of her girlfriends dragged her to it. She was a wrestling fan, and they got in there, and they were hanging out at the bar afterwards. And Chris came over, and Chris really took to Jeannie and gave her his phone number and begged for hers
properly
and took it. Oh yeah, they were very proper. She was a proper, nice English girl, like a gentleman, exactly. He's going to be a gentleman for a little while, and then he won't be.
Okay,
and then it's going to be a mess.
He won't be.
He has one of the craziest crimes we've ever heard. Remember Ion Krotoru blowing up the police station? We have something that's even stupider on this. It's amazing. You can't commit crime in an enclosed tube and expect to get away with it. Let's just say that for foreshadowing. So, anyway, he calls Jeannie. He gets her phone number, calls her many, many times. Like, her mother finally says, like, will you call this guy back, please? He's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I'm talking to him.
Calling.
You're not. Please talk to him.
I've gotten to know all about Gene and Cyril, and I'm tired of it. His brother's going to be in the Olympics,
Yeah, give me a great recipe for boiling ham.
Now, Neil, his brother, said about wrestling and Chris's involvement in it, quote, Chris loved the adulation, loved the fact that he was on television. If he put his mind to something, he was going to make it. That's what everybody thought of him. So everybody had full confidence in Chris as a guy who could get shit done. He moves up the ranks very quickly. Within 2 to 3 years, he's a main eventer over there.
Yep.
So that's like, he's become a headliner, basically.
Yep.
And he's in the big matches with the most famous wrestlers that have been around for a while. And it's pretty interesting for him. It's a quick come up in wrestling, honestly. Most of the guys don't come up that quick. But if you're handsome and you're well-spoken and you're athletic and a gentleman, you're going to advance.
You got time.
And he keeps advancing. June 1981, he travels to Japan. And he travels to Japan. The big wrestling scene in Japan over there, they're huge. Can
you imagine getting a passport for your job? That sounds awesome.
And wrestling is a real sport in Japan, too. They take that shit seriously. Yeah. They have sumo, they have baseball, they have wrestling. Those are their sports. That's it. That's what they're into. Yeah. He works for New Japan Pro Wrestling over there, which is a big organization. Yeah. Loses to some famous guys like Fujinami and Stan Hansen, which anybody who's a wrestling fan knows those guys. Stan Hansen is an interesting character. I wish he committed crime because I'd love to do a story on him. He would go through the Japanese crowd. In Japan, you can't sue people for shit. Like if somebody punches you, can't sue them for it. Stuff like that. That would be great. So the wrestlers in Japan go after the crowd, and the crowd has to run away or they're getting knocked over, and no one can sue. Stan Hansen's a big, crazy cowboy guy that would have a thick rope, and at the end of it, a giant cowbell, and he'd be swinging it around in the crowd, scattering Japanese people like ants. They'd
Unbelievable.
Run like he was Godzilla, just
cowboy Godzilla,
gone. Yeah, and he's swinging the thing. It's funny stuff to see some Japanese footage, but. Tony Walsh was a British wrestler that helped Chris.
Yep.
Trained Chris. Chris called him Dad, the guy said, Tony Walsh. He said Chris called him Dad because he was so much older than him, and he trained him. Says he trained Chris in his backyard on his grass, basically how to wrestle, and got him into the business. And Chris, at this point, decides that he needs to go to America, obviously, because that's kind of where the big money is in wrestling, especially in the early 80s, because this is the cusp of the wrestling boom. Okay. There was a big wrestling boom in 84, 85, 86. Yep. Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper, and it was on MTV, WrestleMania. That's when WrestleMania started, big deal. So he came right before that. Good timing for him for a career. Tony Walsh says of the move, quote, "I was very sad when Chris went off to America. I have a lot of regrets about Chris going to America because every one of my friends who's gone to America in my profession has come back in a box, in a wheelchair, or a drug addict."
Awesome.
So basically...
America is poison.
America is poison. And let's see if we can get the trifecta this time. What do you say? Let's see what we can pull off here. See if we can get the trifecta of British wrestlers going to America with this fella. He bounces around the U.S. for about a year. 82-ish, he bounces around, works some independent shows and things like that, smaller federations. 1983, he lands in World Class Wrestling. Okay. World Class is WCCW. They were a very big deal. They're based out of Dallas, Texas. Back then, they were one of the first shows to do a syndicated show everywhere. So they were all over the world. Wow. So if you were a star in World Class Wrestling, you were a star everywhere, all over the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these guys went on tours all over the planet. I mean, everywhere, all over the U.S. And back then, this was when wrestling was regional. So if you were a star in, North Carolina, you were a star in North Carolina, and people in New York didn't know who the fuck you were, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, these guys were becoming national stars, and one of the first to do it, really. And they the Hulk Hogans came later, and WWF, that sort of thing. But Chris, everybody liked him when he's in Texas, this proper English boy. Yep. So the girls loved him because they'd never seen anything like him, I'm sure. I don't think there's a lot of him running around Dallas, from desert towns. I don't think that's happening.
There's a lot of manly men in Houston.
Absolutely. He gets in now. It's so funny. You can't mention Dallas and you can't mention World Class Wrestling and Chris Von Erich and Chris Adams without getting into the story of an even bigger tragedy here, the Von Erichs. Now, if anybody's ever heard of the Von Erichs, they're a huge wrestling family. They ran this Dallas territory, World Class Wrestling. Fritz Von Erich came over he's from here, but after World War II, he started wrestling in the 50s, and his real name's Atkinson, but he called himself Fritz Von Erich and played a Nazi sympathizer.
Oh my God.
Gimmick. That was his gimmick.
Oh my God.
And they would do that back in the 50s. There was Nazi sympathizer gimmicks, and then there was Japanese guys, and the Japanese guys were all sneaky. That's all of them that was their thing. They were all sneaky, and they'd throw salt in your eyes or spit green shit in your face.
That's awesome.
That was the Japanese guys. Like, you're sneaky, and the Germans would have their chests pumped out and all that shit.
With a handlebar mustache.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now Fritz has not more than three, but three star sons that are wrestlers, and they dominate this territory as the good guys, basically. There's Kerry, Kevin, and David. Those are the big ones, and then there's later on Mike and Chris, and they bring a fucking cousin in named Lance or some horse shit. But anyway, it wasn't even their cousin. But they did. That's what's the great thing about wrestling. Like, he's your cousin now. Give him your last name and introduce him to the people. It's the weirdest sport in the world. So anyway, these guys turn out to be the most tragic figures in the history of wrestling. There was, at one point, 5 brothers, I want to say. There was Kerry, Kevin, David, Chris, and Mike. And there ends up, right now, currently, there is one Von Erich brother still alive. And none of them have been alive besides him for 23 years.
Jesus.
So they died early.
Steroids and drugs and booze?
Suicide.
Wow.
2 of them suicide, I think. Possibly, I think 3 of them suicide. Kerry, Chris, and Mike might have been all suicides. And then David died of some weird intestinal thing in Japan.
Jesus.
They don't know if it's drugs or intestinal shit or something. But
eating their fucking food.
Who knows? But he had some issue over there. So you have to get into the Von Erichs because they're the stars over there. And Chris attaches and becomes part of their group that they push out to the people.
Gotcha.
So he is automatically a huge star. Yeah. Huge good guy. Yeah. Women screaming when he's introduced. It's ridiculous. So he goes with that for a little while, has a lot of success there. But then he realizes that he is never going to get anywhere if he's in these guys' shadows. Yeah. Right? So he's got to become a bad guy. And this fits his personality much better, and because he's going to start fucking up real soon here. But this fits his personality. In 1984 or so, early '84, he takes on a manager named Gary Hart, who's one of the bad guy managers, so that makes him an instant bad guy. Yeah. And he kind of turns on the Von Erichs. Ends up in one match hitting Kerry Von Erich in the head with a steel chair and splitting his head open.
Awesome.
And then everybody hated him forever. Yeah. Then they wanted to kill him from then on.
That's kick-ass.
So then he's this good-looking, well-spoken Englishman that's telling the crowd to go fuck themselves in so many words, which is hilarious, and I think one of the best gimmicks ever.
Yes.
It was terrific back then. And here's in their own words on turning into a bad guy here. In their own words from Chris Adams, quote, "When that first happened, it was like, oh my God, what have I done? But after a few weeks, I really got into it. I really enjoyed it. I manipulated the crowd. It was a lot of fun. It really got me over and got me a lot more notoriety than if I had stayed with them." So yeah, he realizes that this is great.
Yeah.
It's better to be hated at this
Absolutely.
point. So like he has some big matches with big people. September 3rd, 1984, he wins the World Class Television title, which is a belt, championship from Jake the Snake Roberts, who even if you don't know wrestling, you've heard of Jake the Snake Roberts, I'm sure. December 20th, 1984, things are going so well. What do you do when things are going so well?
You party.
You get married, Jimmy.
Oh, geez.
Jimmy, crime and sports rule.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like number 14. Things are going well for you, or things are going badly. What do? You get married.
I can't believe this.
This is going to be his second wife. He's already married and divorced Jeannie, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's over with.
Yeah.
She still sticks around the wrestling business.
With Jeannie?
With Jeannie, they do not. Good. Yes, they do have kids. Yes, they have one child with Jeannie. Yes, because he ends up getting adopted later. We'll get into that. It's a girl.
Okay.
She ends up getting adopted later on by somebody extremely famous that we'll get into.
Awesome.
But yes, Chris marries her December 20th, 1984 in Hawaii. It's a woman named Toni Lee Collins. Tony Adams, she goes by after that. She kind of is a wrestling manager, valet, hanger-on type of deal, too. They have a son. Guess what they named the son? One guess, Jimmy.
Is it a junior?
What do you think he would name the son, Jimmy? What do you think he would name his son? You think he would name him anything but Christopher Jr.? So keep an eye out for him in the future, old Christopher Jr., because if he's anything like his father, good Lord.
The pride.
The hubris. The hubris on you to give your son. Now, anytime I hear Junior, I'm like, you asshole. Doesn't matter. I'm mad at the father. I'm like, what have you done to that boy? What have you done to him?
It's fascinating, too, because you're named after your dad, but differently.
Not Junior.
Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm named after my grandfather. Obviously, I'm not Junior because you'd have to be...
Yes.
I would be Junior had I been my father.
Thank God I wasn't, because I would have been on just a road of crime, and I'd just be a mess right now. Good God.
I don't have it together, but at least I'm not in jail.
Basically, another way he turned bad guy was cool, too. Like, he turns heel in this way. He does in an interview.
I love that you just used the wrestling term.
Never mind. I'm up to my ass in this shit, dude. I get so involved, you have no idea. Like,
hilarious.
I've been watching interviews and fucking countless clips of wrestling.
And it sucks you in.
It sucks me. This happens to me every week.
God,
you understand?
Jesus.
I'm in a different world of insanity every goddamn week. I don't know who I am anymore.
I can't wait till you say jabroni.
It could be coming. You never fucking know, man. You're never gonna. But he ends up in an interview.
Yeah. He
says that because he would go to the ring and all the girls would rush to the the aisle and they'd kiss him, and so he'd kiss all the girls on the cheek and shit, and they all liked him.
Yeah.
And he basically said in an interview, he said, "I'm not going to kiss fat women anymore on the way to the ring. I'm tired of you people." Blah blah blah. It's like, this is amazing. What a great character.
Then you're not going to kiss women at wrestling matches, sir.
Yeah, that's not at all.
That's what shows up.
So, pretty well. No, back then, that's the thing. The Von Erichs were all like good-looking dudes, the chicks. Oh my God! In the 80s in Texas,
The Rock's just one sexiest man on earth.
No, but these guys, when they came out, they'd introduce them. You just find a YouTube clip, just put Von Erich World Class Wrestling, and just any of them that come in except for Mike and Chris. If it's Kevin or especially Kerry, listen to the high-pitched squeal when they come out. I've heard it 100 times this week. It's just
women everywhere.
I mean, it's insane. It sounds like when the Beatles came out on Ed Sullivan.
There's an easy fat women screaming like pigs joke. So.
But there was a lot of like teenage girls and like young girls. Yeah, there was. If you look in the crowd, it was all like young girls back then because they were young guys. All these like the Von Erichs were like in their early 20s, and they were like strapping, good-looking dudes that the chicks dug.
That's fascinating.
Chris starts doing very well financially because he's making a fortune in this. He's a top level guy in a huge, blowing up organization.
Money's coming in.
Owns a home in the UK, has a bunch of land in Texas.
Wow.
Has a couple of condos. He's becoming an American, just a good old fashioned American douchebag right off the bat. But drives a Corvette like an asshole. That's like, oh, look at you. You're integrating. Isn't that nice? You know what I mean?
You're turning into an American.
You're becoming a real American. A total douche asshole. Unreal. So here's Chris on a little, in their own words, on just his general feeling of wrestling here and how it made him feel. In their own words, quote, "You can make people love you or hate you. It appealed to me. The theatrics mixed with the athletic ability. I thought it would never end. I lost it all through divorces, ignorance, and mistakes, though."
I like that he put divorces first.
Divorces, ignorance, or mistakes. It happens, either one.
I think you can lump all those into divorces.
Yeah,
Ignorance and mistakes are the same thing.
I could have saved that quote for later, but let's get into the foreshadowing, because we're not going to have to foreshadow much more.
No. The meat's coming.
The meat is coming right here. His tag team partner for a long time when he became a bad guy is a guy named Gino Hernandez. Okay. Gino Hernandez looks like if Scott Baio could kick your ass. That's what he looks like. If you look up Gino Hernandez, he looks like if Scott Baio was a badass. And Gino Hernandez was the biggest cokehead on the face of the earth. And Chris is a big drinker, and he likes his drugs and that sort of thing. But Gino's a legendary cokehead. Okay. Legendary. And he ends up...
Scott Baio's instrumental in ruining America right now.
Yes, he helped. Thanks, Scott Baio. So in March 1986, Gino Hernandez dies of mysterious circumstances. He dies of a drug overdose, but the
toxic... it was Scott Baio.
Yeah, Charles in charge would have been fucked at that point. Charles is up. That's it. Cancel it. Jeez, it's over. Cancel it. Nope, Scott, he's dead. We found him. I don't know. He's dead.
We found him in the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah, shit happens. So Gino Hernandez, he dies of a drug overdose, and the medical examiner says he has like 5 times as much coke as it would take to kill someone. But they don't know if maybe his tolerance is so extremely high that 3 times as much as it would take to kill someone is just what gets him high.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
just
we don't know.
Through the day.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know that. Or there's also Gino was involved with organized crime in the Houston area, and there's a lot of fishy circumstances. I watched a documentary on this too. Jesus. There's a lot of fishy circumstances. Yeah, for a 2-minute part of this episode, I watched an hour and a half. So
Gino's life.
So Gino ends up dying in mysterious circumstances. So that's the high water mark. Right before Gino dies is the high water mark.
Okay.
Chris is a star. Everything's good. Only one
tag team partner.
Only one dead Von Erich, and it was sort of mysterious, and we don't know. He didn't off himself after a bad drug debt, and he was getting. That's what happened to the one guy, Kerry. He was going to jail for fraud. He was going to end up going to jail for check fraud, and he was just broke, and so he offed himself instead because he was a mess on drugs. But so Gino dies. That's the high water mark, and now it's going to start to skid down.
Now we're sliding.
Now let's get to June 30th, 1986. And one of the most batshit crazy things that anybody's ever done that we've covered on this podcast. It's the one where I'm like, that's just not safe for anyone. You'll know what I mean here in a moment. It's June 30th, 1986. There's an American Airlines flight. Okay, they're in San Juan, Puerto Rico. They're doing a show, and they're going to be flying back to Dallas, the whole crew. Chris doesn't have to wrestle that night in Dallas. He's just flying back. The whole rest of the crew has to wrestle, but they're just waiting around flying back. Now, there's a trouble with the plane. The plane, one of the engines goes out after takeoff. They have to turn back around and land.
Oh, my God.
Nothing major, whatever. It was fine.
Enough to make me shit my pants out.
Shit our pants, yeah. But they landed. Everything was fine. And so while they're fixing the plane, they offer free alcohol in the lounge to all the passengers.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea with a crew of wrestlers on board because these guys are lunatics and they're all huge. Chris isn't even really a huge guy, 6'1", 230. Which is 230 is a thick guy. He's a big guy, but he's not a monster. He's not 6'8". He's not one of these guys.
He's not the Undertaker.
He's not the Undertaker, exactly. So they give these guys alcohol, which is a mistake. And let's get into how much of a mistake it is with some quotes about Chris here.
Awesome.
Here's a quote from a friend, Tom Lance, who's a wrestling hanger-on and an independent promoter, blah, 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 one of these guys who just kind of hangs around. He looks like a fucking thumb with legs, this guy. He's just like, he's got no neck. He's this dumpy dude. It's a very sad man to look at. Tom Lance says, quote, Chris couldn't just have one drink. He had to drink until it was all gone. If it was a bottle of whiskey, if it was a case of beer, he did everything to the extreme.
Oh, my God, he's a binge drinker.
This is the type of guy he is. And also, too, another quote here from one of his friends. This is a woman. She says, quote, Chris Adams was an addict. He was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic. He was a sex addict.
Awesome.
So he's a disaster.
Yeah.
He is right up our alley.
My kind of guy.
My kind of guy. Champion of crime and sports over here. His friends, multiple friends, all use the Jekyll and Hyde term with him.
Okay.
When he's sober, he's a gentleman.
Yeah.
They all say he is the gentleman when he's sober, and then when he's drinking, it is lights out, completely different person, attack the world.
I love it.
Everybody's an enemy. Violent lunatic, basically, with a goddamn extremely good judo background, too.
Trained
He's a
to
scary
fight,
man. Yeah, he's a scary dude. They're on this flight. Chris is drinking for 3 hours. They end up getting back on the flight. Chris is drinking more, and he is hammered.
Yeah.
Hammered to where the flight attendant cuts him off.
Oh my
and this is in 1986. You had to do a lot to get cut off in 86. I mean, Jesus Christ. So the flight attendant cuts him off, and he gets pissed, to say the least.
Yeah.
He gets
back then, cutting somebody off was insulting them as a man.
That's
telling someone they can't handle booze.
And we have a quote from him on this, and it's from a wrestler named Killer Tim Brooks, who was a wrestler back then, and he was there sitting right next to Chris and saw the whole thing extremely firsthand. And normally I only do in their own words if it's a direct quote from a reputable source, a newspaper quoted him, something like that, I'll do, or I saw an interview, I heard it from their own mouth. But I'm going to do in their own words for some hearsay here, just because it's fantastic and we need it. So, in their own words, through somebody else, but still this was his words here. In their own words, to the flight attendant on being cut off, quote, "You fucking cunt. You can't cut the gentleman off. Do you know how much fucking money I make and you're going to cut me off? I make 25 times your salary."
Awesome.
End quote.
He's been insulted. That's it.
He's been insulted, and he's an egotistical maniac at this point. You're
not a
monster. He's a monster of ego.
I'm going to show you what kind of man I am.
Yes, he's an absolute monster of ego. So she fucking goes running off, this flight attendant, because she's scared shitless of this lunatic.
Because in 86, calling somebody a cunt was not near as prevalent as it is today.
I don't know if, and the British culture wasn't as prevalent either, so I don't know if they knew that that's pretty common language over there. But to call a lady a cunt... That's still strong in any culture.
Anywhere,
like over there they call each other, men call each other, you silly cunt, and that's fine. But to say, to a woman, it's still strong and aggressive. It's not cool. So he sits back down while she's gone. He's fuming. I mean, he's sitting there just absolutely up to his eyeballs in
boiling
anger. Anger and Jack Daniels just bubbling and marinating, percolating under the surface.
Boiling like a leg of lamb.
Oh, exactly. Like a leg of lamb in an English countryside. So a minute later, the co-pilot comes out. This is the co-pilot of the goddamn airplane. This is the guy.
You've disturbed the flight enough to where the man that's backing up the man flying the plane decides he has to handle it.
He comes out of his cockpit and comes up to Chris, and this guy overplays his hand a little bit here. Let's just say that. He overplays his hand in life slightly, because he thinks he is... I don't know what he thinks, honestly. I don't know if he thinks his exalted position as co-pilot is going to calm this lunatic down and simply intimidate him, but he gets in Chris's face while he's in his seat, points in his face, which not the best thing to do to this guy in this
drunken large man
in this state that he's in. Gets in his face, tells him you might as well settle down because you're not getting any more drinks on this flight. Then tells him that he says, "I have the power to land this plane in Miami and have you arrested." And the whole time he's pointing in his face. So Chris bursts up from his seat and grabs him by the lapels.
Let me show you my power.
And literally picks him up and says, quote, "You think you have the power, I have the power." Like fucking He-Man, literally. You think you have the power, I have the power. The power to grab him, keep him by the lapels, and fucking headbutt him.
Wow.
Headbutt him. This guy goes down, obviously, because he's a normal human being. He's not used to getting headbutted in the face.
Right.
Breaks his nose, chips a bunch of teeth, screws him up. Then he proceeds to jump on top of him and start choking the shit out of him, trying to kill him.
Oh my God.
Now, they are at 30,000 feet flying over a fucking ocean at this point.
There's nowhere to go down.
Suppose something happens to the pilot.
Right.
There's a reason that guy is there. There's a plane full of goddamn people, and you're strangling the only man who can safely bring you to Earth if this one poor son of a bitch has a heart attack. He has the power. Do you understand? The power to not crash into the fucking ocean.
Right.
This guy says, "I'm going to kill that man," because that's not good enough for me. So... insanity is going on right now. Kevin Von Erich, who we mentioned before, who's one of the sons of Fritz Von Erich, who owns this territory and is Chris's boss.
Right.
Kevin is he's the oldest remaining Von Erich boy, and he's he oversees things for his dad, kind of. they look to him. He's the one kind of in charge, and his dad's not there. So it's that sort of thing. So a flight attendant runs back where Kevin Von Erich's sitting and says, can you help us, please? Your friend is trying to kill the co-pilot in mid-flight. You might want to do something about it. So Kevin runs up. Holy shit, Chris is a lunatic. He must have been drinking. Pulls him off of the co-pilot, and he's like, hey, Jesus Christ. Takes him in the back of the plane. Now, this is how dumb these two are. Now, I'll give Chris, he's blackout drunk, but Kevin Von Erich's a fucking idiot. I've seen a lot of interviews with him. He looks like he has the IQ of burlap, this fucking guy. He's a moron.
I love dummies.
A complete, he did a lot of drugs. I don't know if he's burnt out or what, but he's a moron. His bright idea to try to get out of this situation, because, this is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
This is, nowadays they put you in Guantanamo Bay for that shit if you attack a co-pilot.
On a plane?
On a plane? Yeah, insane, right? So he says, here's what we do. Come here, Chris, let's do something. Me and you, we're going to go in the bathroom together and switch shirts. They'll never know it's you walking off the plane. He's got the co-pilot's blood all over his head.
Right.
He just headbutted, and everyone watched as this lunatic choked him and then was dragged to the back of the plane.
We're going to change your shirt. They'll think you're somebody else.
They don't even look alike either. It's not like they're similar and you no, they're not. One is an English accent, one is from Texas. They're completely different. And Kevin talks like this, He talks like Matthew McConaughey, and this guy is proper.
I'm from Warwickshire.
Yeah, I'm from Warwickshire. I done headbutted that pilot. I got him good now. It's insanity, right? You can't get any stupider than this.
Why do you want to trade places with the guy who's probably going to jail?
That's the thing. And well, I guess because it wasn't him. So they thought Chris would walk out and they wouldn't even notice. And then when he walked out, they go, there he is, get him. And then they'd be like, it's not me. And they'd be like, oh, it's not him. Never mind. And everybody get away scot-free. That was the fucking plan. That was seriously the plan.
That's awesome.
That's the dumbest criminal conspiracy I've ever heard in my life, right? So Chris, when he gets sat back down, he goes over to Killer Tim Brooks next to him there, and he's like, what do you think's going to happen? And he's like, you're going to get fucking arrested. Yeah. He's like, when we land, just go. He goes, he goes, when we land, put your hands behind your back and get ready to get cuffed and walk out peacefully because it's bad enough already, man. Like,
that's it.
Don't make it worse.
Yeah, don't struggle.
He said his quote was, "They're going to take you whether you want to go or not. Like, you're going. You can't headbutt everybody." No. Chris Adams headbutting the world.
You can't headbutt anybody.
I picture him in any situation where he's having a problem. He just says, "I have the power," and headbutts something. That's what he does. His car breaks down. He just starts headbutting its hood. "I have the power." Doesn't work. Now we have an in their own words on the flight incident. Chris denies that he headbutted him. Chris says that he shoved him. Everyone else says he headbutted him that was there. His friend that was next to him, the guy who had a broken face.
Right.
All these people saw a headbutt.
And heard the smash.
Mm-hmm. But either way, he was trying to choke him. But anyway, Chris denies it. And he says, in their own words on the incident, quote, "I'm not proud of it, but I really didn't headbutt him. If I had, he would have been unconscious." So
you tried to choke him that way also.
Yeah. He said, "Listen, I have proof that I didn't do it." He
still
clearly
breathing,
would have been unconscious.
He's still alert.
It's fine. So he got a lawyer, obviously, in this case, because he's going to fucking need one.
Yeah.
Balin Bradley was his lawyer, which sounds like a silver-haired middle-aged white man if I ever heard of one.
Balin.
His attorney here, Balin Bradley, says, oh my God, in court. This is his statement to the court about Chris Adams, which you don't get any more silver-haired than this. This is amazing. Quote, "Chris Adams, as the court knows, is a good young man. He is not one who has a criminal outlook on life. His problem is that he tends to abuse alcohol." Well, no shit, asshole.
And co-pilots.
And co-pilots and anybody else that's around him.
And women that cut him off.
I love that he says, "as the court knows."
Right.
Like it's
You're all quite aware.
Listen, we don't even have to discuss the fact that he's a good young man. We're all straight on that, right?
Wikipedia, right?
Okay, he's a good young man, everybody? Okay, good. Now we can talk about the rest of it. The funny thing here is he's having these legal troubles, obviously. The wrestling organization knows about it because the son of the owner is the one who pulled him off of him and tried to switch shirts with him. So this is not a secret. So you would say, we have a loose cannon on our hands. Maybe we don't invest a whole lot of resources and TV time and just in promotion
Let's
into this guy.
Let's not make him a main character.
He could disappear at any point
and he could ruin
in
our
prison.
whole thing.
Yeah. So You'd think that, right? But not quite, because 4 days later, on July 4th, 1986, he wins the world-class heavyweight title. Let's give him the title. He beats ravishing Rick Rude.
My God.
Wasn't ravishing at the time, just Rick Rude. But he
Rude.
beats Rick Rude for the title, who was like in his second year in wrestling at that point. So that's the kind of insanity we have here. This is when world class is starting to fall apart.
Maybe they're thinking, if we make him a star, he'll straighten up.
Absolutely. Well, and he, after the fight, he tries to get himself together. His parents said they called him. He called them and told them what happened and said that he's going to AA, and he's so embarrassed about it. And it's, he's just
that shit works.
It's clearly it didn't, as we're going to talk about it here. We have an in their own words about just the whole lifestyle and this whole thing here. They were talking about now, since he was basically like, now I'm taking it easy. Like, before I was crazy, but I'm good now. I'm good. This whole thing could be broken down into, I'm good now, in a British accent. So, in their own words, he says,
I'm good now.
They're very different, talking about the things that are going on in his life. Quote, they're very different. Like I said, I realize what's important in my life, so I'm not whizzing around the world partying every night and ruining my relationship with my wife. I think my values have changed. His value, absolutely, right? Values have changed. Well, they better change quickly, because on September 16th, 1986, a federal jury convicts Chris of misdemeanor assault. How that's a misdemeanor, I have no idea.
Yeah, no doubt.
A vicious headbutt and a choking on a flight while a man's doing his job seems... It's not like the guy came up in a bar and punched him in the ear and then they went at it.
In the ear.
He came up to him reasonably, said, you called my flight attendant a cunt.
Right.
I mean, you would think he would have some attitude. Right. Yeah, I have the power. Right. If you call a waitress that in a restaurant, the manager will come up to you angry every time.
Throw you out.
And rightfully so. And if you headbutt him, you're the asshole. So he gets convicted. So on October 25th, 1986, he's sentenced to 3 months in federal court.
That's essentially what happened. The manager came over and said, look, I can't throw you out now because we're 30,000 feet in the air.
But I will.
But I will take you to Miami and throw your ass out.
And he said, I'd like to have your teeth broken on my forehead. Let's do that. So he's sentenced in federal court on October 25th. Judge Eldon B. Mahone says of this whole thing, quote, because he was in the public limelight, he was idolized by the community, either as an athlete or an entertainer, whatever you consider that. He had a lot of young children following him, wanting his autograph. This is not a very good example.
Doesn't sound like a wrestling fan.
This is not a good... Yeah, he said, whatever you consider that thing. This is not a very good example. You, sir, may fuck off for 3 months. 3 months in federal prison and a $500 fine.
Pretty stiff.
What is that horse shit? Yeah, he tried to maim a man mid-flight. Unbelievable.
3 months.
Apparently, the judge is silver showing a little bit there,
See
too,
what
in his
happens
hair.
pre-9/11.
Good God. Yeah, Jesus. Maybe... Yeah, nowadays you cannot attack the co-pilot like this at all. You'll probably get shot. There'll probably be an air marshal
with terrorism. Yeah,
someone will kill you. Yeah. So the world-class wrestling starts falling apart at this point, as we've gone over this with Jimmy Snuka and all of the territories start to fall apart. WWF now WWE. Vince McMahon starts just burying these people, taking all their stars, hiring them away, and then they fall apart to nothing. And the WWF becomes national, and these guys become more local, and then end up folding, basically. So this is what happens. So late 86, Chris goes to Mid-South, which is another territory run by another famous lunatic named Bill Watts, who is a crazy person, used to be a football player at the University of Oklahoma, and he's a lunatic, tough guy. Cowboy Bill Watts was his name, and he would, just a legendary, ran his territory with an iron fist type of guy, fine you if you were late a minute and a half, that sort of shit.
Jesus.
A lunatic, basically, yeah. Beat guys up for not doing shit properly in the ring. He'd say, that's not how you sell a punch. This is how you sell a punch, and he'd punch the guy.
Blast him in the face.
And he'd say, see how you just did that? That's how you do it when someone pretends to punch you, asshole. So it was like, oh, okay, that's the type of guy he was, a lunatic. So anyway, he goes there. It's based out of Oklahoma, Louisiana, that sort of, which is around Texas still. So Chris Adams is a big name in that area. So he goes there. This is when Bill Watts is selling that territory to what would become WCW later on, Jim Crockett Promotions. Long story that doesn't need to be told. Anyway, he's successful in Mid-South, which turns into UWF, which doesn't matter because it'll be out of business soon. But he wins the tag team titles with a guy named Terry Taylor, who becomes the Red Rooster. If anybody remembers the worst character in the history of wrestling, look up Red Rooster, WWF, Google a picture of this idiot, and it's a guy standing there with looking totally normal with one red stripe dyed down his hair, kind of sticking up in a little mohawk. But the rest of him's totally normal.
Just like a
and
red rooster would
he would
be.
literally move his head like a rooster, like a chicken, like forward. It was insane.
He's pecking the ground.
Like he was I don't think you're supposed to be an actual rooster,
right.
asshole. Like I think he misinterpreted the character a little bit. But anyway.
All you've got is a red stripe, by the way.
That's it. He didn't have feathers or anything. He just had red tights and red boots and a red stripe down his head, and he'd come out and go, cock-a-doodle-doo, and start beating people up. It was ridiculous. Well, they would beat him up, really.
Right.
He was a loser.
Right,
So,
he's the jabroni.
He was, and yeah, continued to be. 1988, Chris begins a wrestling school in Dallas.
Okay.
Right out of the Sportatorium, which is where World Class used to run all their events.
Because those who can't teach.
Those who can't teach. And he's a good wrestler, though, Chris. He really is. Chris was a good guy to watch in the ring. He's real entertaining. He's athletic. He moves around. He was one of the first guys in America to do the super kick. You know, Shawn Michaels, if anybody had watched, that kind of reverse kick to the chin thing that they do.
Yep.
They slap their legs so it's real loud.
Right.
That thing. He was not the first, but one of the, I'm sure guys in Japan were doing it. But in the U.S., he was kind of the first guy to be famous with it. Like that's his finisher. That's his move. So he's training guys. He releases this video that is hilarious. The promotional video thing is hilarious. It's called the ABCs of Professional Wrestling, and he makes a good pitch too. I mean, he's a salesman in his English accent. He's claiming it's a 9-month to a 2-year course where we're going to teach you the basics of wrestling, and you'll get in here, and the gentleman's going to tell you what to do.
So much time.
It's insane. Well, yeah, it's kind of a big. It takes a long time to learn how to fall and not break your neck out.
9 months to 2 years.
To not kill another man as you pretend to kill him. He's promoting the wrestling class. He's training a bunch of wrestlers. He, in fact, his most famous student in 1989 comes around, or 1988, but he begins wrestling in 89, is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No shit.
He trained Mr. Steve Austin. Yes,
That's
he did.
wild.
He is Steve, and Steve Austin has some quotes about him, boy.
Really?
He doesn't like Chris Adams very much. It's odd. Steve ends up marrying Jeannie, Chris's first wife from England.
No shit.
Yes, because Jeannie was around the wrestling business too, and Chris.
That's bizarre.
And Steve meets her, and Steve ends up adopting Chris's daughter later on. Also, it's a really weird thing.
Is he still with her and still raising the kid?
No, they are. Steve and Jeannie got divorced, and Steve ended up marrying Deborah McMichael, who was another wrestling manager, who was Steve McMichael's wife, the ex-Chicago Bear and ex-wrestler. So anyway, so they get married, Steve and Jeannie. Steve Austin obviously becomes a giant star, and later on, Chris is going to be kind of angry at Steve's success and the fact that he didn't think Steve was very grateful for Chris getting him into the business, and he wasn't. Because I have some quote here from Steve Austin on this whole deal. Steve Austin's a hilarious son of a bitch, by the way. He's
a
really
bad man,
funny,
too.
and he says exactly what's on his mind, and he cracks me up. This guy. Every once in a while, I'll turn on his podcast just to. I don't know. It's just every once in a while I kind of want to channel this drunken redneck weirdo and hear his insanity.
I saw him do a taste test on the internet of different beers, and he was like calling him the most politically incorrect things ever.
I'm
like,
sure. Jesus,
this is a
he's
queer
a maniac.
beer or some shit
He's
like
a
that.
maniac, redneck, and he's hammered all the time. So you don't expect PC from him.
This one tastes a little swishy or some shit.
So anyway, Steve Austin has his first match on May 11th, 1989, and he realized right then that Chris didn't prepare him enough for the ring, and he's a little pissed off about it.
Got his ass kicked?
And he says later on in his book, well, he just didn't know what to do. He didn't know you were supposed to not actually beat the living shit out of the guy and have the guy beat the living shit out of you. So he was abusing people out there, Austin was, and they were like, oh, calm down, big guy. Like, oh,
slow down, bald, crazy man.
He's a big strapping, he had long blonde hair back
Really?
then, too. He was stunning Steve Austin back in WCW, but this was before Stunning Steve, and he was just Steve Austin with long blonde hair. It was ridiculous. But anyway, he was a bad guy. He's supposed to be a prick, so you wanted him. Anyway, he says later on in his book, Steve Austin says about Chris Adams, quote, Chris Adams had been real nice to me up until that point. Later, I would learn that he hadn't prepared me the way I should have been prepared. At the time, Adams seemed charming and very intelligent to me. I look back at him now and realize he was a con man deluxe. So that's what Chris is.
Con man deluxe.
A lot of people thought he was a con man deluxe, apparently, as it comes out a little bit later. He continues to have craziness in his life here. There's an incident in Israel. This is what he does crazy shit in places where you don't do crazy shit.
Yeah.
People have machine guns in Israel.
Right.
Like, soldiers are walking around. Don't fucking do nutty shit over there. It's another country, for Christ's sake. Don't fuck around in another country. That's rule number one.
Yeah.
Or on a flight 30,000 feet above the ocean should be rule number two. 1A, really. It's close. So they're in Israel, and they're in a hotel because, they were doing a wrestling tour over there. And apparently Chris used the phone behind the desk a couple of times, and the clerk wouldn't let him use the phone anymore. Chris went fucking ballistic and beat the living shit out of this guy.
Unbelievable.
Horribly. The guy needed facial reconstruction surgery.
Wow.
He beat him mercilessly in the hot lobby of this hotel while the guy was working. So, he's a lunatic. They get him out of Israel quick. I guarantee you he never went back to Israel, I'm sure, because they got him on a plane and got him the hell out of there. Insane.
Hotel concierge and co-pilots are who he's kicking the shit out of.
And also, don't leave out, hey, you know what? It starts at home. Man.
Yeah.
It starts at home, Jimmy,
does.
because in February of 1989, he's arrested for domestic violence.
Good God.
For beating the holy hell out of his wife, Tony.
Of course.
Beat her up pretty good. Pretty decent here. She said he was drunk and went crazy and just snapped, and she didn't even know why. And that's what we're going to keep hearing. He gets drunk, he snaps, and let's follow the crazy from there on. You know what I mean? It's wild. Late 1989, this goes on for the year. He gets 1 year probation for domestic violence for beating up Tony. So he's again gets off. Now he's beat up a co-pilot, a goddamn
hotel concierge.
All these people he's beating the shit out of, and it doesn't matter. He's just no problem, guys.
He'll beat the wife. He'll beat anybody.
This is what I mean. It's so weird when we do some of these guys because there's certain, and I get it that we talked about it before. Football players, wrestlers, boxers, fighters, they all have this much more crazy violent streak to them, and it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because obviously they're fighters because they're not averse, or football players because they're not averse to contact. They might like contact. They're not afraid. They need it. They're they're aggressive. But at the same time, at what point does it also? You've been hitting the head 50 times, and you're drunk a lot, and it's the lifestyle that makes
it brain damage.
Yeah, it just seems like a really bad cocktail altogether for these guys, and they become crazy violent. Because when I look, I'll look at different athletes and what they do. Obviously, this is our business, what we do. So I'll look at baseball players. There's not a lot of violent baseball players. There really isn't.
No.
It's odd. The basketball players, not a lot of violent basketball players either. They're laid back. They had a lot of drug charges and shit like that, but not a lot of he murdered his wife and then killed the dog and buried it in the yard. That doesn't happen. Or killed his wife and fed it to the dog. Fed her to the dog. That doesn't happen there. See Bruno de Souza, episode 5, or 6, I'm not sure.
Soccer.
Amazing, and that was soccer, but that was Brazil. That's a whole different
it's a
world.
different culture.
I don't think we have many listeners in Brazil, so they're just fucking nuts down there. We can just say that. Fuck them, I don't care.
We can just say that.
I don't, not true probably. I have no idea. I've never been to Brazil. I don't know any Brazilians, but
close enough for me.
Fucking crazy. They all feed their... You know what happens down there? Anything happens with your wife. Hey, Dad, where's dinner? It's not on the table. Chopped up, fed to the dog. Every time. That's just Brazil. I don't know. It's the national.
Fido.
That's it. It's the national
Dinner's
meal.
on.
That's it. National dog food. So early 1991, Chris is convicted of drunk driving now because he gets a drunk driving charge in Tarrant County, Texas. He's out of control, basically.
I can't imagine the drunk driving charge in that time period is very steep, though.
It's actually not, because we're going to get into a minute. The consequences and some more that he gets into as well. You think that's the only one he's going to do, Jimmy? Come on, he's a drunk. 1991, he's back into wrestling. He was wrestling kind of around in Texas and doing the wrestling school mainly. 1991, he wrestles for Global Wrestling Federation, GWF, which was on ESPN in the early 90s. It looked like shit. I remember watching it as a kid. It looked terrible. It had some guys that went on to be, had Booker T was in there,
cool.
X-Pac, Six-Pac, whatever you want to call him. Sean Waltman had him in there as the Lightning Kid when he looked like he was 10.
Really?
Literally looked like a 10-year-old was running around. Kicking people and flipping around and shit. He was crazy. But he was fun to watch, actually. They did tapings out of Dallas. They used the Sportatorium, which is the same gym, the same arena that the World Class used and that he trained his wrestlers in. So obviously he's going to be on this. This is home. He wins the World Heavyweight title there twice.
Wow.
So he's a star there. Yeah. I mean, that's one of their big gets because he's a well-known guy nationally and in Texas.
He's huge.
To draw crowds, that's your guy. That's who you're going to draw with because the Von Erichs weren't doing it. Kerry was in WWF at that time.
Gotcha.
And Kevin was, who the hell knows, being drunk and stupid somewhere. And was getting his Matthew McConaughey impression down. So late 1991, while this is going on, this is so funny. He gets arrested. They give him a heavyweight title. Now he's convicted again of drunk driving in Pittsburgh, Texas.
Jesus,
unbelievable. He's given probation for both offenses. They get both drunk driving offenses together because his probation had worn off from his domestic violence. That was a year probation. So now he's free for new probations. So 2 drunk driving arrests in 1 year warrants probation back then. And this is after you beat your wife drunkenly assaulted a federal, it's insane.
Yeah.
I don't understand when
our laws
someone...
now, 2 in a year?
Oh, Jesus
Christ. You're in jail
Christ.
for a year.
You're in jail.
Yeah.
I just don't understand what it's going to take for this goddamn guy to...
to get it together?
Not to get it together, for the rest of everyone to go, hey, he's an asshole. Right. Stop this. Yes, he's got a very nice accent. We understand.
Make an example of him.
Yeah, we get it. He's got a nice accent. He seems very charming.
Right.
Everyone's like, he seems very charming because he comes off very, very charming. I'm telling you, when you see the guy, you'd give him money. I'm telling you, man, he could sell you something because he's very well spoken and a handsome guy and a successful guy. Right. And he's a fuck up too. 1993 kind of dips his toe in the promoting waters. He tries to promote some wrestling. He promotes a tour in Nigeria. The tour had a bunch of old wrestlers. It was kind of like
There's money to be made in Nigeria? I had no idea.
Apparently, well, no one goes there. So if you have the famous wrestlers that are famous worldwide, I guess you could draw some people. I have no idea. Like the Iron Sheik was on that card.
That makes sense.
That sort of thing. Yeah. He was a famous old guy. It was sponsored by Pepsi, the tour.
Wow.
So legit.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, not bad. Now, at this point, too, he's also wrestling in Memphis for Jerry Lawler down there. The USWA. And the Jarretts and that whole territory. Yeah, the legendary lunatic territory, Memphis. That's where Andy Kaufman went and did that whole thing with Jerry Lawler. Right. That's the territory we're talking about.
Lawler's awesome.
Lawler's a crazy person. Yeah, he's nuts. Jerry
Super
Lawler.
fat now.
Oh yeah, he's a fat old man now. Yeah. I wonder how he has gotten in trouble multiple times for diddling. Not diddling, but like actually having relationships with like 14-year-old girls. Now, it's never been substantiated, but I'm pretty sure he settled out of court a few times.
I'm sure he did.
Which to me is a little shady at
that
point.
It signifies there's enough evidence to fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you can just give her some cash.
If hundreds of people sue you for fraud and you settle, guess what? You were full of shit.
Right.
And so is your university. So moving on, August 15th, 1994, Chris and Tony divorce.
Oh, boy.
So, she's
had enough of the beatings.
She's had enough of the beatings and the general. Imagine the horse shit she's been through.
So much.
Imagine it. She's been with this man for 10 years.
So much.
Married to him for 10 years. I can't imagine just from the physical abuse to just the emotional struggle of having to deal with the ups and downs of someone who can't keep it together and completely turns into a different person when they drink. Now, at this point, we're going to introduce a new character here. We are going to introduce, I love this guy's name. His name is William Parnell, but when they show his name, it's William, quote, Brent Parnell, which I don't know.
Pick
but
one.
No one calls him either of those names. Everyone calls him Boo Ray.
What?
Boo Ray Parnell. Now, this guy is a shit kicker this guy just looks like, you just take one look at him and you go, I don't even think it's a double wide. I'm pretty sure it's single wide. I'm positive of it.
I'll bet it's a travel trailer.
Holy shit, he's got an Airstream.
He drags behind a car.
He's
not
got
even
an
truck.
Airstream.
Yeah.
Like, not even like an imitation knockoff Airstream, not even like a classic.
He drags it behind an old Cadillac.
Absolutely. At this point, Boo Ray, tried to be a wrestler. He's a big guy who wasn't really good at it, and he's a hanger-on. Yeah. And these hanger-on wrestlers that are they sort of wrestle, they refereed a little bit, they did this, they did that. They kind of hang around these wrestlers and latch on to the stars and that sort of thing. And Boo Ray had just got some kind of legal settlement. He had something with an oil company. I don't know what happened, but he got a legal settlement from an oil company, and suddenly Chris and him are good friends. Oh. Suddenly they're buddies.
It's weird.
And it's so...
Got a windfall of cash and new friends.
Absolutely. Everybody liked Boo Ray, actually. They thought he was a nice guy, and Chris would borrow money from him,
Yeah.
that sort of shit all the
That
time,
never happened.
obviously. No. Boo-Ray would also drive. He was basically he said he was his best friend, but he was also his kind of second.
As long as his wallet's full.
And his chauffeur, too, so Chris could get completely shit-faced and not have to get drunk driving charges. So that's what Boo-Ray was. Everyone said Boo-Ray was always driving, so Chris was never coherent, basically, when he was around Boo-Ray, because he didn't have to
Clever.
be. It's smart. That's better than getting DUIs. Thank you for not killing people for a minute.
No doubt.
You idiot. Chris Adams, you jackass. Now, 1994, soon after the divorce, he gets together with another part-time wrestler named Brandy Freeman. They get together. They end up being together for years and years. They never actually get married, lucky for her, but they're together for years and years. They have a daughter named Julia, again, so he's spreading the seed.
It doesn't stop him from kicking her ass.
We want his genetics all over
Right.
the world. And
Please-
the kids seem
please
really
make more.
nice, too. I don't mean to say shit about the kids, because I've seen videos with them and stuff. They seem like nice kids. They've had it tough, and they love their dad. And there's no, I mean, they don't talk anything bad about their dad. And
That's nice of them.
It's their dad. I completely understand that. He didn't headbutt them and try to choke them to death. So they just see him as dad. So that's fine. I don't
They
blame the
didn't get
kids for that.
hotel concierge jobs or pilot jobs.
No, they're staying, or they didn't marry him, luckily for them. So now, 1997, Chris begins wrestling for WCW, which was huge at that point. If anybody remembers, there was the Monday Night Wrestling Wars, they call them, where it was Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro. The two companies had a competing Monday Night Wrestling show on at the same time. And basically, WCW had a ton of programming. They had like 3 hours of Nitro, and then they had like another 2-hour show on Thursday called Thunder. They just needed bodies to fill this time, because you go through a lot of wrestlers like that. So they were hiring.
You can be a scumbag and still be hired.
They're hiring anybody, and if you were, especially if you had some kind of name at some point, they'd really hire you, because it's like, hey, maybe 5 people like that guy. So they bring Chris Adams in because he was a name and he was a good wrestler.
Gotcha.
He actually wrestles Macho Man Randy Savage on the first Thursday Night Thunder show that they do.
Wow.
And he beats Macho Man Savage with some interference from somebody. I don't know, some crazy horseshit. Fucking wrestling, who knows? But anyway, so they use him decently for a while, and then they end up using him because he's a little bit of a name to get other guys over, basically. Like, they'll beat him, and now they look better.
Gotcha.
So that's what they're doing with him. And at that point, he starts to get a little bit pissed off, and he's unhappy with it. But the things with Brandy are crazy, too, the girlfriend. Like, a friend talks about a night when apparently he beat the shit out of Brandy all the time, too. One night when they witnessed him beat Brandy and then drive away with her hanging off of his car.
Oh, Jesus.
She's hanging out of the window, like, trying to hang on to it, and he's fucking driving away. Like, that's dragging her, basically. Like, he's not a nice guy at all at this point. He's turned into a nut. Too. That's the thing, he was, and the whole time he's very loaded. 1999, he requests and is granted his release from WCW, which I don't know why you'd want to get rid of the paycheck.
Right.
I'm sure he's making $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, I don't like the way they're using me on television. They're making me look like a jackass. They're having shitheads beat me.
At least they're making you look like something.
Not for nothing, too. He's about 44 years old at this point, and he's in an athletic field.
Still dragging women around the block on your car.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do when you're 16.
That's the thing. Well, in his head, he's 16. He's like, I can still wrestle. Like, yeah, you're kind of old, and we're going to go with younger guys.
You see me drag Brandy
I beat her ass. I beat her ass. You have no idea.
I need to fight Randy again. Let's go.
Jesus, I'm on my third wife because I beat them all, so I can beat. Beating is my thing.
Champion of beatings.
Have you been to Israel ever? There's this hotel there. I want you to go talk to this one guy. Let me tell you something. Now during his WCW stint, we're going to introduce this into the mix, and this is a major player into this mix, a major player. He begins, because alcohol obviously is not enough for him. Right. Clearly, that's not enough to make him a fucking maniac. He needs to do something else to really bring it all together.
Add another something to this recipe of disaster.
I was just going to say, he threw a little salt, a little pepper, and he's like, I need a little garlic powder in here. Let's do this. And his particular garlic powder was GHB.
Oh, Jesus.
He dug GHB.
Really?
And during this period, he was well known to use GHB with Chris.
The date rape
Yes, I'll tell you, all the bodybuilders are into it, and I did way more GHB research than I needed to for this, but I really wanted to have what the hell
Wasn't
it was.
The bodybuilders in Vegas, the husband and wife, weren't they using that shit
They were, too, and that's why, and I'm going to get into why here. Now, he was known to be his buddy in this, apparently his running partner in WCW using GHB was Chris Benoit, who will definitely talk about at some point.
We're very familiar with that fucking
We're very
idiot.
familiar with him. Just Google Chris Benoit and go, oh my.
And then strap in because we're going to do an episode.
We'll
and
definitely
we'll tell
talk
you more
about him at
details.
some point.
Yeah.
He's one of like a heavy hitter. You guys have heard a lot about it, so we're going to do some great people you don't
There's
know.
a lot of bodies in that wake.
There's a lot of bodies in that wake. So he's known to do that. Now, GHB, from what I understand and from what I read, the bodybuilders all thought, bodybuilders started using this in the late 80s, early 90s when steroids became more, straight, more clamped down on.
This is hysterical.
So they'd take this GHB and they'd pass out these bodybuilders, and they thought that while they were sleeping, it was building growth hormone in them. It was really like releasing growth hormone. Now, scientifically, I can't believe I know this. Scientifically, apparently it releases a minuscule amount of growth hormone, but not enough to do anything.
Right.
But they just heard that it releases growth hormone. Like, well, I'll just take a bunch, and it's better than not taking growth hormone. But it's not the same as taking growth hormone.
Right.
It would be, it's like taking a crumb or eating a cake. It's not the same thing. But anyway, so they all started using it. Extremely addictive, also GHB. Real
I'm sure
addictive.
it is.
So then they get into it, and then they do GHB all the time, and they party with it, and they drink and do GHB, and that is... that's like just
a disaster.
That's like pumping gas while smoking all day. Just like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Because GHB is one of these things where, and it's funny because I remember this from an old Love Line back in the day, the radio show. I remember Dr. Drew talking about GHB, and he's like, it's an interesting drug because if you don't do enough to hurt you, it's kind of out of your system quickly and it's fine. But it's like you do a teaspoon and it's a good time. You do a teaspoon and a drop and you're dead. So it's like, it's hard to dose, basically. It's very hard to dose. You have to really kind of...
And they don't write that shit on the label either.
No, they don't. And the dosing is going to be a problem for Chris that we're going to talk about. Late 1999, Chris and Brandy break up. Gee, wonder why.
Weird.
Maybe she just got tired of getting the shit beaten out of her and dragging his drunk ass around.
Right.
I don't blame her.
And him dragging her around.
And
maybe
him dragging her around
Maybe
by the
she'd like to
car.
ride inside the car.
She's like, listen, Chris.
We got to have a talk. Our car it seats 5.
Listen, Chris. I understand that we have problems sometimes. And I do. I get mouthy sometimes. I'm not going to lie. But when we go to my mom's this weekend, do you think I could ride in the car? just in it, just to my mom's.
What if you stand through the sunroof?
Okay, I'll hang off of it, but at the gas station around the corner from my parents' house, could I just get in so we pull into the driveway
Hazzard
like
style.
that? It's just, you don't have to open the door. It's fine. Don't
go
even
through the
slow down.
window.
I'll jump in. I'm getting good at this. I just run next to the car. That's how they travel. She just runs next to the car. And he goes, you stupid cunt, and he keeps driving. Every half a mile or so,
Call
he
me
calls
Bo
her
Duke.
names.
I'll climb through the window.
So February of 2000, Chris ODs on GHB as a nice overdose. And he does this a couple of times. And what he does, and this is the thing with GHB, is a lot of times, apparently people will overdose. And if they don't take a fatal amount, if they just overdose, it wears off in 4 hours. And when GHB wears off, it's gone. It's like it's here, it's gone.
What?
Boom, boom,
You're
off a
fucked
cliff.
up, you're sober.
Fucked up, you are 100% sober. So
Weird.
basically, you'll have people that overdose on GHB, and when they hit the 4-hour mark, basically, of when they took it, wherever they are, they'll just pop up and be like, okay, feel fine, and walk away. They feel fine. They don't even know what happened.
That's a weird drug.
They think it's fine. They walk right away. It's like, and they don't know what they do. That's why people do crazy shit on GHB. They black out.
Wild.
And the withdrawals of GHB are apparently very bad. If you are an addict of it, it's apparently not a good withdrawal. It's very rough and you get very violent, you get very irritable, and perfect for this guy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So he ODs in 2000 here. He's taken to a hospital in Denton, Texas, and at the 4-hour mark, he just pops up, rips the tubes out of his mouth and nose and face, and just puts his jacket on and says, have a good one.
Wow.
They were like, sir, and he was like, no, I feel good now. Bye.
No, you were
left.
You were dead to the world an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, with tubes, just ripped him out of his nose. Like, what's this in here? How'd I get here? Literally, he's like, how'd I get here? What happened? Like, he had no idea what happened. That's just
Unbelievable.
I'm in the hospital? What's going on? Strange shit. No, maybe I should stop taking crazy drugs.
Yeah,
at this
and
point.
have more questions. Like, how do I stop doing this?
How the fuck do I stop doing this? Imagine he's like in the hospital room, and he's sitting there, and he's the tubes, and he wakes up, and he rips the tubes out. And at one point, he's rich, and he had a Corvette and a condo and a nice family, and he's famous. And
now he's in a hospital.
Things are going
in
well.
Denton.
He's in a hospital in Denton, and he rips the tubes out of his nose. And just as that happens, there's a knock on the door, and he opens it up, and it's the Mexican pimp standing there, guns blazing. guns blazing. And he pours him a drink. Not that he needs one.
Right.
One drink. He's even the Mexican pimp.
No GHB.
He keeps his guns out, too. You know he would keep his guns out. And he asks him... How is it you've come to arrive here? Huh? How is it you've come to be? Let me ask you a question. You had it all. You were a glamorous man. You had flowing robes and belts of gold. And now you are here with tubes ripping out of your face. Why? Why you do it? Chris, why?
Why you do it?
How?
So whispered.
How is it you've come to arrive here? And then he's gone in a puff of smoke. And Chris puts on his jacket and fucking leaves.
Just fuck that guy.
And on the way out, when they ask him, why'd you do GHB all the time? Here's Chris's quote, in their own words. Yeah, nobody asked him it, but later on. So what the fuck was up with the GHB? He says, quote, I like the high feeling and the sexual feeling. It was meant to be this wonder thing, but obviously it turned sour on me. That is a motherfucking understatement. Let's get into exactly how sour this turns. So Chris is single for a couple months, which is odd for Chris. He hooks right up with people. He finds at this point a nice young lady named Linda Kaphengst. Now, Linda is a nice lady. She's a nice young woman, very pretty. She's a secretary at an insurance company. Okay. She's not a crazy person. Everybody around her says she's just a stable, normal person. She doesn't like drug addicts normally. She doesn't like lunatics. So they are wondering what the fuck she's doing with Chris, who just OD'd 2 months ago
how
on
do you
GHB.
mix up with this guy?
But also, too, she has friends that are like some scumbags. This documentary had this one girl in it who was the tweakiest girl I've ever seen in my life. She didn't stop moving. It was uncomfortable to watch somebody on that level of stimulants, just that coked the fuck out trying to tell a story. It was like, oh my God, I couldn't watch it. I had to fast forward through her shit. Anyway, so Chris is coming off this long relationship, obviously, of 8 years with Brandy or so, 6 years with Brandy. Friends say that Chris is happier than he's ever been. He's super happy. He's in love with her, with Linda, shouting it from the rooftops, in their own words on Linda. Quote, I thought she was an angel from heaven. I fell absolutely crazily in love with her. Wow. So, I mean, Chris...
She's totally riding in the car.
She is in the front fucking seat, this Linda,
man. He bought her some Corinthian leather seats.
He took her to England to introduce her to the family. He's serious. He's not messing around. They'd also go hang out at strip clubs together and shit like that, which is out of character for her.
So she's fun.
She's fun. He's a scumbag. They both like the GHB, apparently.
Oh, God.
That's what he says. They were both into the GHB. They partied with it a lot, at least 20, 25 times, he says, all the time. Like I said, Linda's friends were like, what is she doing with him? Like, that's not her type. Like, they thought she'd find a nice, like a lawyer or something.
A bad boy.
She's chasing this jackass. So, insane. So, in April of 2000... they go out one night. Linda and Chris, they go out for dinner. They have drinks. They play some pool. Going out for a night on the town, right? At 2 a.m., they call up Boo Ray. Now, Boo Ray and Chris are buddies. Like I said, Chris would live with him sometimes. When he was in between. When he broke up with Tony, moved in with Boo Ray, and they're whatever. He's his running mate, fucking lackey.
His pal,
his lackey, for lack of a better term. So they go to his house at 2 a.m. They call up Boo Ray, and they're like, hey, Boo Ray, what's going on here? And, he's like, oh, come on over. I don't give a shit, So they go over to his house to party more. Yeah. Basically, they start hanging out, and they're kind of getting, basically said they're getting close to each other. Yeah. So he's going to go in the other room. We have a quote from Boo Ray in a minute here. He goes to bed, leaves Chris and Linda in the living room. Yeah. They're partying, hanging out. Chris is supposed to meet her parents the next day. They're in Texas, and he's supposed to meet her. So this is a serious thing, and whatever. Next day is a big day for them.
Let's get fucked up.
Let's get fucked up all night long, then go meet your parents. So Boo Ray said, quote, I love quoting a man named Boo Ray, first of all. Boo Ray Parnell, in his infinite wisdom, said, quote, they were laughing, and they had this little dog from Taco Bell. If you squeezed it, it said something. She couldn't hardly talk from laughing. They were loving on each other, so I decided to let them have their good time.
She's a douche.
So she's a douche with a
laughing at the
Yokiro Taco Bell. Exactly. Which, if anyone laughs at that, they better be high.
Dick.
They better be high on more than GHB. That's all I have to. They better have a fucking needle of heroin hanging out of their arm.
Unbelievable.
While they're overdosing.
She's laughing at that.
And and I love the way he says it. They were loving on each other, so I decided to let them have a good time. Go on, hump in my living room, guys. Come on.
His cock was out. She's laughing at the Yokiro Taco Bell.
Absolutely. Boo-Ray's
clearly a nice night for them.
hell of a running mate, Boo-Ray. Come over to my house, use my living room as your fuck den. Enjoy. I'm going to go to bed now.
What a wingman.
Hey, come on over. So they apparently, Chris and Linda, mixed GHB.
That dog wound up in her ass, by the way, just
probably.
So you know.
Well, that dog probably ended up in evidence, as we're going to get into in a minute here.
With some fecal stains.
They mixed GHB with orange juice and drank that.
Oh.
Chris says he remembers saying, down the hatch, and they're fucking drinking and having their partying with it. That's what they did. Now, Boo-Ray comes back out. He sees Chris asleep, slumped over in an armchair with his arm up on the thing, and he sees...
it's more like passed out.
Exactly.
Right.
It's passed out. Linda is on her back sleeping on the floor, he figures. So he tried to wake them up to say, like, get the fuck out, maybe, or you want to lay down, you look uncomfortable. I don't know what the hell he's trying to wake them up for, but he couldn't wake them up. They wouldn't wake up, so he's like, well, they're probably just drunk. These are wrestlers. For someone to be blacked out drunk that you can't wake them up, isn't that abnormal for Texas wrestling people? You know what I mean?
Weird.
That's just normal. That's
so
how
foreign to me.
In the 80s, that's how they fucking partied, and that's where these guys are from.
If I tap my wife, she sits up, she rockets up in bed. What? Get away from me!
Give her 2 bottles of whiskey and a bunch of GHB, and she won't, Jimmy. I'll tell you that much. She won't do much.
That's the nightcap from now on.
She'll probably be unresponsive like these two.
Unbelievable.
So Boo-Ray calls Tom Lance, the human thumb I told you about earlier, because he couldn't wake them. Now, rather than call an ambulance, you call some other dipshit redneck.
Right.
Hey,
you know,
what do I do here? Yeah, what's going on here?
You know,
what
fuck
the hell
it.
I don't know. How you fucking? I ain't breathing into his mouth.
Hey, how do you spell CPR?
Yeah, what's going on now? Now, Boo-Ray claims not to know that they were doing GHB, which I find bullshit. If Chris has been doing this for a couple of years and this is his buddy,
you're well aware.
He knows what he's doing.
Right.
So he thought Chris would be mad if they called an ambulance because of Chris's previous OD that he got a lot of bad publicity for. Okay. And at this point, he's still trying to promote independent wrestling shows. So bad publicity for him, bad publicity is not good. People aren't going to want to go support a criminal scumbag, basically, or a guy who's a drug addict. Because in Texas, because of the Von Erichs, that was a sensitive subject in the wrestling business.
Gotcha.
So now, while on the phone, basically... he's keeping this Tom Lance guy on the phone, and he's like, all right, hold on a minute. And he put it down, and he go do shit, and he come back. And he stays on the phone for the next, hour and a half, which is crazy, too. Basically, he's on the phone. Boo-Ray tried to wake him up again. They wouldn't wake up. Now, Tom Lance on the other end of the phone claims to have heard Linda's labored breathing over the phone, said she didn't sound right. Lance tells Boo-Ray to call an ambulance. Hey, dick fuck, call an ambulance, obviously.
An hour and a half ago.
Dumb shit, yeah. So Boo-Ray attempts to do CPR on these two while he's on the phone with 911, and it takes them 20 minutes to get there.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, he's trying to do CPR on him. He's trying to revive him.
And he's an idiot.
And then the whole time the paramedics are there attending to Chris and Linda, Tom's on the phone still. He's still on the phone. So he's on the phone hearing all this. So he's like, he remembers them hearing them say flatline about Linda, which is not a good sign. But then they thought Linda was going to make it. So they took them to the hospital. Police thanked Boo-Ray for calling. You know, Jesus, you saved those guys' lives. Good job. They go. Chris ends up, again, waking up, ripping shit out, leaving the hospital, takes off. Basically goes to see Linda the next day, 12 hours later. And he told her whole family was there, and this is how he's meeting them at the hospital.
My God.
Remember we were supposed to meet today? Instead of going to the Outback Steakhouse for a bloomin' fucking onion, we're at the hospital where your daughter is on life support because she's brain dead from doing GHB, and he tells the family they were doing GHB together, and they got out of control.
Wow.
And he doesn't even remember what happens, he said, because he was
I think I gave her that drop extra.
A little too much, yeah. Damn it, teaspoon.
Yeah.
Gotta get one of them measuring cup things. In an English accent, do that. So,
obviously.
But he's so dumb, we're giving him the dumbest of redneck accent. Not even just a southern accent, because that's fine.
It's a dumb
redneck accent. And you're like, huh? So the family told Chris to fuck off. They didn't want him around, obviously. We barely know you. You just got together with our daughter, and you've now basically killed her.
Right.
Thanks. Have a good one. Nice to meet you. So he leaves the hospital.
It's been a real pleasure, Mr. Gentleman.
Yeah, they declare her brain dead, and the family decides to pull the plug, and that's it. Linda's dead the next day.
Wow.
12 hours after they take her to the hospital, she's fucking dead. I mean, that's how things turn sour with the GHB. You think, Chris?
She's still got a fucking chihuahua in her ass.
Yeah, poor girl. So now on the death of Linda, we have an in their own words. In their own words, quote, "It's the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. I don't think I will ever get over it. I can't imagine how her parents feel. I have 3 children myself, and it must be awful." I hate that quote because first he says, "The worst thing that's ever happened in my life. I don't ever think I will get over it." Then he sounds like he's a good con man, so he's like, "Oh shit, I'm too far on the me."
There's way too many eyes.
There's way too many. I can't imagine how her parents feel because my kids, I don't know how they would feel. That's amazing. So yeah, exactly. He's full of shit. He's too smart to even be that stupid. You know what I mean? Now, at this point, Jesus Christ, his wrestling career is fucked.
Yeah.
It's over. He's trying to be an independent promoter. It's all in the papers that his girlfriend just died of drug overdoses. Goddamn Boo Ray's house is a mess.
Disaster.
Now.
There's jizz everywhere.
There's jizz and shitty Taco Bell dogs.
and orange juice containers.
Muddy paramedic footprints. It's a disaster area over there. Poor Gene and Cyril are sitting over there in England going, "What the hell happened to my nice little boy?" Tony Walsh is going, "Well, he's a drug addict. That's one box. That's one, check that one. He's got this, check that one. He's not in a wheelchair or a box yet. We'll keep those." He's got children that are a complete fucking mess. They never see him. I feel bad for all these people, Jimmy.
Chris Adams.
I feel bad for all these
There's
people.
so many.
Not as bad as I feel for these people. And I tried to find, because there's a trillion Chris Adams. You could, you can't throw a pencil out of the window and not hit a Chris Adams. So I tried to find the most upstanding Chris Adams I could find.
Ones that have succeeded.
Not as bad as I feel for Chris Adams, a ground officer with the U.S. Air Force from Duluth, Minnesota. Dr. Chris Adams, a rheumatologist in Opelika, Alabama, which I love that. Chris Adams, a financial analyst at an investment banking firm, Harvey and Company LLC in Orange County, California. Chris Adams, a professor of internal medicine and endocrinology and metabolism at the University of Iowa.
That man's successful.
And finally, a man that he's going to need here, Chris Adams, criminal defense attorney in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Call 770-676-1083 for a free consultation. Get yourself down there if you're a criminal in Georgia. Help our listeners out.
GHB and have a body lane somewhere.
That's right. You kill your girlfriend on GHB, this is the man to help you.
Holla.
Chris Adams, that's our guy. So after Linda's death, needless to say, his mental state spirals out of control. He's a disaster now, way more than he was before.
His life is deteriorating at a rapid pace.
Imagine the drinking and the...
God, it's got to be so gross.
His friends are worried about him.
It's not even good booze.
Oh, no.
He smells like sour mash.
Oh, he's finding the cheapest plastic jugged shit that they have.
He's not even looking for the buzz. He's just looking to fucking feel normal.
To kill the whatever, to kill the monster that lives inside of him. He's hospitalized for depression at this point. He continues to see a psychiatrist. He moves to Florida for a few months to move in with this complete and utter scumbag guy from this documentary that I saw. I didn't even write down his name because he's worthless, this guy. He was some like hanger-on, wannabe wrestler, manager, singer, asshole. He just looked like a douchebag.
Just milking every aspect of anybody that has talent. He's trying to figure out if he can hang on with that.
Absolutely, man.
It's a jazz singer.
He's not doing well. He's not doing well. At this point, too, he has not been charged with anything for Linda's death.
Really?
They're still looking into it. It's under investigation. Okay. There's autopsies. There's all these toxicology and shit. But the GHB gets out of your system very quickly also. So
if your system's operating.
If it's operating at all and hasn't shut down.
Right.
Late 2000, Chris calls a woman named Pam. Now, this woman, Pam, is a wrestling office worker. She's apparently, on the documentary, they called her the webmaster of a wrestling site. Or actually, a web mistress, they called her.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a little creepy. It sounds like she's a dominatrix, and I've seen this woman. I don't want to see her in that outfit.
Some ball-crushing videos?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what it looks like, her and Sally McNeil. No, she's a larger woman. Let's just leave it at that. Chris leaves a message on her answering machine. I don't know what the beef is because they didn't get into it, but he was pissed.
Really?
He is screaming and yelling and calling her a fat bitch and a cunt and this and that.
Awesome.
And tells her that she messed with his business for the last time because he was an independent promoter at this point. And apparently she must have done something to piss him off.
Gotcha.
And said that if she didn't stop, she'd, quote, end up just like Linda.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So that's not the thing you want to say.
No.
That sounds suspicious.
That's incriminating.
So she plays the tape for her friend Lacey, who's this other woman who knows Chris and knows all the deal. Lacey tells her that's pretty scary. Pam gets scared and tells other mutual friends. They all encourage her to go to the police with the recording. The Lacey woman contacts the police for her and say, I have a recording of Chris Adams saying this. And they go, well, that sounds interesting. We'd like to hear that. Thank you. Imagine this. I just love to hear a completely angry British accent saying this on the phone, too, like a threatening, very proper British accent, just threatening. That would be amazing. I'd be like, that's so cute. He's from a town of dessert. He's from it's got frosting. Oh, that's adorable. So
his town has sprinkles.
After this, with the recording, that must have been the cherry on top of the dessert of their case, because Collin County District Attorney Martin Lako submits it to a grand jury at this point.
And
that's a rough one. Once you go to a grand jury, you can indict anything in a grand jury. Now, this is Chris on life, I'm going to call this, and in their own words from Chris here. In their own words, quote, I thought I had paid my dues and that it would never end. It's like a roller coaster ride at Six Flags. It's up and down, and then something comes along and makes it crash. Yes, you.
Yeah.
You're the thing that comes along and makes it crash by choking the pilot to death.
And a short fuse.
When you choke the pilot to death, that causes crashes. You
Absolutely.
dipshit. So, yeah, he's a fucking moron. So, anyway, June of 2001, Lacey, like I said, after she gave the tape to the homicide and they did the whole thing, Chris is indicted in June of 2001.
Returns an indictment.
Indictment, 1 count of manslaughter.
Okay.
Which, I mean, you're not going to say, he didn't cut her head off or anything, but it seems shady.
That could return 12 years.
Yeah. They turned the case over to the DA's office, the whole deal. In Texas, a person can be convicted of manslaughter for recklessly causing someone else's death. That's the only thing. I looked it up because I'm an asshole. But yes, that's the only thing. He is freed on $25,000 bail, which I don't know where the hell he got that from at this point in his life. I don't know if Boo Ray put his mama's house up or what. But Adams' defense attorney, David J. Pyre, a Dallas attorney, said, quote, Jesus, this is an asshole quote. I want to punch this guy bad. This is a silver-haired, middle-aged asshole here. Quote, if he had slipped or something, that would be one thing. But she was partaking in it. It's a tragedy that a young woman died, but I don't believe it rises to the level of reckless. The fact that she's dead means it rose to the level of reckless.
Right.
He recklessly sprinkled too much GHB in her fucking drink. That's what happened. Yeah. So, yeah, she's... What would be considered reckless at that point? Would he have to throw acid on her and have her melt into the floorboards?
She was clearly enjoying herself. She was laughing at a chihuahua.
Yeah, exactly. She was fine.
She was asking for it.
She was asking for that. That's the universal sign for wanting to be killed with a drug.
Taco Bell. That is
overdose
code for give me tons
kill
of
me
GHB.
now. Just kill me now. I don't care how you do it. That was his chosen method. Right. That's all. Now, we have an in their own words on the manslaughter charge from this whole thing. In their own words, quote, I feel guilty, but I just don't think I'm guilty of what they're accusing me of. It was a tragic mistake. Yes, and when someone dies from your tragic stupidity, that's called manslaughter. Right. When you cause the death, let me read it again. When you cause the death, recklessly causing someone else's death. That's it. That's the only threshold for it. That's the law.
To it.
The law is very simple. It's 2 lines.
You just said exactly that's what you did.
Exactly, right? So now... Late 2000, we're still going here. Boo Ray says that while this was going on, that Chris wanted to have Lacey killed. The Lacey woman who turned the tape over to the homicide detective. Boo Ray said that Chris, that's all he was talking about. Chris was saying, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to kill her. I want her fucking dead. And Boo Ray's going, hey, listen, if you kill her, who do you think they're coming to?
Right.
You and me too, probably, because I'm your boy, so maybe not a good idea. And Chris said, I don't give a fuck as long as she's dead. I want to kill her. I don't care. If I go to jail for the rest of my life, it's worth it.
I care if I go, though.
I would care, for me personally.
As Boo Ray right here. Boo-Ray doesn't want to go to jail.
No.
So let's not kill her.
So he went as far as contacting a hitman, and the hitman even refused to do it because apparently he wasn't fucking retarded, and he knew that they would get caught because it's going to go, you know.
Like they're coming right to you,
They're coming right to you, and then you're going to fold.
You threatened her already. It's on tape.
I don't trust Boo-Ray.
No.
Boo-Ray is going to fold like a cheap table, and then I'm going to prison. No thanks.
You have a friend named Boo-Ray. It's not happening.
Absolutely. So November 2000, Chris meets Karen, another lady. That's what he needs, another woman in his life. They fall madly in love again.
Of course they do.
Chris is a very passionate man. He's very
fucking charming.
Chris, he's for lovers, this guy. So Karen says they're soulmates. Chris overdoses on GHB again. There's another incident, of course. The 4 hours, he rips the shit out.
So awesome.
So your life's in turmoil. What do you do, Jimmy?
You get married.
You get married, Jimmy. On August 25th, 2001, you get married again. He marries Karen.
She's seen him fucking overdose on GHB. She's like, that's my man.
And in her interview, she's just like, I don't know, he was fine. He was just great. She will not say a word about him that's not
negative.
I don't know what everyone's talking about. I don't know. Yeah, you've been dragged by a car. You do know. So for the wedding, Chris does a completely douchey thing and dresses up in a Doc Holliday costume.
Oh,
Chris is obsessed with Doc Holliday. That's his favorite character of all time. Loves him. Rents a Doc Holliday costume, rents Karen a dress to match, like an Old West dress, and they get married like that. Boo-Ray's the best man. So you're dressed like Doc Holliday with a guy named Boo-Ray standing next to you.
Boo-Ray Earp.
This is a fucking Boo-Ray Earp. This is a white trash wedding. Yeah. Boo-Ray Earp and Doc Adams over here.
Sipping on fucking sarsaparilla at a wedding.
Now, Karen had 2 children from a previous relationship, a boy and a girl, because you want to introduce more kids to this. Kids actually loved Chris. That's one thing. No kid. They interviewed a lot of kids that were around. No kid ever had a bad word to say about Chris. They said he's fun. He's a nice guy. He would do silly shit to make them laugh. He was a big kid, basically.
He's not a huckleberry and all that shit.
Absolutely. But yeah, he probably doesn't get drunk around the kids, I'd imagine, would be the big thing here.
It's funny when he passes out for 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Now we introduce Dorothy Parnell, who's Boo-Ray's mother, and my favorite character in this whole fucking thing. She says that Chris and Karen were at the house one time when she heard Chris berating Karen, cursing at her, calling her names, threatening her, telling her to get the fuck out. Karen says that Chris was nothing but sweet all the time. So she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That was fine. And this is a nice old Southern lady going, he was saying awful things to her. And she said, I went to Boo-Ray and I said, now, if Chris doesn't stop doing that, I'm going to have to ask him to leave. That's how nice she was. Now I'm going to call the police. I'm going to have to ask him to leave. Now, that's not polite to yell at that girl like that. I think he just backhanded her. No, that's not nice. So this poor woman, after this incident here of the Karen thing, Chris apparently, they took off together when Boo-Ray said, hey, my mother's whatever. Chris said, fine, threw her in the fucking car.
The mother said,
her to the
you've got to
side.
leave.
Yeah, hooked her up to the trailer hitch and drove away. And that night, he gets arrested for a DUI on the way home.
Oh, my God.
And apparently he was drinking then, and they said he was drinking more, and I think they had pulled over off the side of the road, and they were drinking, and a cop came up and arrests him. Now, after this arrest, and after all this, Chris goes way religious. Way religious.
Really?
What's rule number 2?
Yeah.
Don't find God.
Religion, right.
Never find fucking religion when you're an athlete in trouble.
Right.
Stay away from religion, away from your
Leave it
hometown,
alone.
all of this shit. And he did not. He goes religious in a, not just a, I think I'm going to go to church once in a while. He goes to a Pentecostal church where and I saw the preacher in this documentary, and he is talking some horse shit.
Yeah.
He's going, I saw a woman with a tumor, and it was a 4-pound tumor in her neck, and the doctors cut it out, and it fell right out of there, and the wound closed and healed before my eyes. God healed it. I saw it. And people are clapping instead of leaving. Fucking kidding me?
Instead of leaving.
It should have been at least 20 people. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm not, this guy's an asshole. It should have been nothing but the sound of footsteps walking out the door after he said that.
Should have been a parade of people
Unreal.
flipping him off as they leave. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. So Chris was trying to get out of the wrestling business in late 2001.
Yeah.
He was going to be a sales guy for a friend's limo company because he's a good salesman.
Yeah.
He owed at least $50,000 to the IRS, and he also owed his ex-wife about the same amount of money. His ex-wife Tony from
his
divorced
divorces
in
and ignorance.
'94. Good God, I don't know how long he's owed her this money for. He couldn't get work at this point. He was supposed to be on a couple of wrestling cards, but the sponsors would tell the promoters, if he's on it, I'm not doing it anymore because he just killed his goddamn girlfriend and there's charges. He's fucking indicted for manslaughter.
DUIs everywhere.
And he's indicted for manslaughter. He's living with Karen, taking care of the kids at this point. She's in total denial to Karen. She thinks everything's bliss. October 7th, 2001. You know when a date comes up, it's not great.
You betcha.
Chris tells a friend, the crackhead girl from the documentary, whose name I don't care about, she's a crackhead, that he needs $20. And can he borrow $20 from her? Because he needs to put gas in his car.
What he needs.
Says he has to go see his lawyer.
He's at a point where $20 is a problem.
She didn't have it, so he tells her, he scraped up $1.50 in change from the couch cushions and around the house to get gas. So this guy went from, this is how you come to arrive here. This guy went from top of the world, douchebag Corvette driving, pilot stomping lunatic.
He's got 43 sticky pennies in his hand.
Yeah, unreal. So he scrapes that up, gets gas, calls Boo Ray, tells him he'll be over around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Going to go hang out with Boo Ray. Apparently they'd both been depressed, Boo Ray and Chris, and they were just going to hang out. And they were trying to promote a wrestling show coming up, so they were going to plan it and talk about it, whatever. Anyway, Karen was having a girls' night out that night. She was out hanging out with Cracky fucking from the documentary there. Chris doesn't arrive at Boo Ray's till 7 p.m. He's supposed to be there at 2. So they talk about the wrestling show.
5 hours late.
Yeah.
The sun's down.
Sorry. So they discussed the show for a couple hours. Somewhere Boo Ray had differing takes. First he said an hour and a half, then he said 3 hours. We don't know how long. Somewhere
Either way,
in there.
it's almost tomorrow.
So it's been a while. Right. So Chris suggests they watch a movie. Let's watch a movie. Let's just stop this. We'll put a tape on. We'll do something. This is still VCRs at this point. Chris suggests Frank and Jesse, which is a 1994 film about Frank and Jesse James. It's a Western. He's really into that shit. This sounds terrible, by the way. It's an HBO original. Usually they make good stuff, but this is starring Rob Lowe as Jesse James. Just go fuck yourself. And Bill Paxton as Frank James. No.
Absolutely.
Lowe as Jesse James? Are you kidding me? He didn't even have a hat on. He said his hair styled perfectly. Get the fuck out of here. It's got a 5.9 on IMDb. 5.9 out of 10 stars. Not real well.
That's a high rating for that piece of shit,
Yeah,
though.
9 out of 10. Not that great. That's mediocre.
Almost 6.
So we're at Boo Ray's house in Waxahachie, Texas, which sounds nice. All of you overseas listeners, I'm sure you want to visit there.
Anything with "achie" at the end of it is not good.
It's the opposite of Shire.
Right.
If Shire means nice and desserty, Achie means swamps and shit fucking
There's
brewing.
a gator in your front yard.
Yeah, there's a sewage plant there. Right. So Chris, like we said, into the Old West. He had the Doc Holliday thing, so he's into the movie. An hour into the movie, Boo Ray asks Chris to close the door. They're in Boo Ray's bedroom. They're grown men. Chris is damn near 50 years old.
Right.
Seriously, he's 45 years old. Boo Ray's like in his 40s, and Boo Ray's living in his mom's house, and they're in his bedroom watching a fucking movie like they're 12. It's ridiculous how far these people have fallen.
Watching a shitty Western.
Yeah, so he tells Chris, can you keep the door closed and kind of keep it down, because my mom is asleep in the next room, who's like 75 years old. Now, these people are so fucking white trash. And Dorothy was kind of charming. I mean, she was like an old Southern lady.
I'll have to ask him to leave.
Old Southern ladies are super charming when they're not saying the N-word. Right. They're super fucking charming at that point. Whenever then it comes out and you go, ooh, that sounded a little harsh.
It doesn't get to politics or religion. They're great.
They're great. Boo Ray calls Karen at midnight here and leaves a message on her machine saying that she needs to call Chris because Chris needs to talk to her. Yeah. Chris was angry at her. He was talking shit about her. I wonder what she's doing out there. He's been drinking. Right. He's pissed. She's out
fucking some guy.
He's feeling not great about himself. Chris was getting belligerent in general. Now Boo Ray doesn't understand exactly what happens next here, but something provoked Chris, basically. Something provoked Chris. Boo Ray... The only thing he could think of was they said, what provoked him? And he said, the only thing I can think of is I told him to keep it down because of my mom. Right. He goes, other than that, I don't know what happened. Yeah. Like, he was belligerent over her, but everything was fine. Chris was drunk. Yeah. Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. He fucking snapped. Starts cursing at Boo Ray, getting louder and louder. And Boo Ray's like, hey, my mom, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Chris gets up, shoves Boo-Ray across the room. Boo-Ray crashes into a wall, and
Boo-Ray's over the car bed.
Boo-Ray's a 250-pounder too. He's no
Right.
small guy, but Chris knows what he's doing here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a judo champ.
Threw him across the car bed.
Throws him across his car bed. Absolutely, he falls over, hits his head on the dinosaur lamp, and bleeds out with the nightlight on him, showing a really nice.
Laying against the fucking.
this.
Playing against a light bright tag machine
On his
Hilarious.
face.
Yeah.
So he's got a 4-post bed in this room because they showed the room. He's got a 4-post bed. Chris breaks off a fucking bedpost.
What?
That's how out of his mind, insane and strong he was in this time. He rips up as he's walking over to Boo-Ray, who he's just shoved. He rips a post off the bed and starts going to attack him with it.
Wow.
Absolutely nuts. Boo-Ray puts his hand up and blocks it. And he said he broke a couple of his fingers and cut him open and whatever to block the thing. But he finally wrestled the post out of his hand because he doesn't want to be beaten to death with a piece of wood. So Chris, according to Boo-Ray, then puts Boo-Ray in a sleeper hold, like a real one though, not a wrestling fake, Brutus Beefcake. He's going down. This is like, I'm going to choke you to death.
Right.
Sleeper hold, a real one here. So these are two large 250-pound men fighting in a bedroom, in a small, probably his childhood bedroom.
Right.
So, I mean, insane.
It's tiny.
They
It's
crash
9
into
by 9.
Yeah, they crash into. I saw the room. It's tiny, man.
Yeah.
And they crash into the window. They broke out a bunch of panes of glass. Boo-Ray had cuts on his side.
Wow. It's getting real.
It's getting real. They go from there. Chris overpowers Boo-Ray, pushes him onto his bed, and jumps on top of him and starts gouging his eyes out, he says. And
Jesus.
He said he bit him. Boo-Ray said Chris bit him.
This is a street fight.
Yeah, and then he starts choking him.
Yeah.
He's choking him out on top of him on his bed. So Boo-Ray says, quote, I was at that point, this is what's going to sound weird, but it's the truth. I swear on my daddy's grave, his eyes were like glowing. It seemed like The Exorcist. So he's a drunken redneck who thinks this guy's eyes are glowing.
Right.
Either way, he's frightened.
That's probably because you were seeing the light. You were probably close to death.
He said, quote, he had the strength of 3 Chris's. Which I found funny shit. Not 3 men, 3 Chris's. Now, Boo-Ray has a handgun next to his bed on his nightstand. Boo-Ray grabs the handgun and hits Chris with the pistol a few times, quote, to try to knock some sense into him. Jimmy, I don't like the way you're doing that. Let me knock some sense into you. Clack, clack, clack.
You with the 38.
But he said, quote, he just kept getting stronger.
Wow.
So Boo-Ray said, I was at that point, I was about to pass out. I mean, he really, and I'm just quoting him exactly, I mean, he had my air cut off. I couldn't breathe. He just kept getting stronger and stronger. I knew it was either him or me, and I had no choice but to shoot him. So he shoots him with the 38.
It was
Shoots
a 38?
Chris. It was a 38. He shoots him.
Oh, my God.
He shoots him. Chris goes down. He runs out of the room. He calls 911 right away. Cops and ambulance come. When they show up, Boo-Ray's still on the phone with 911. He's like in the window with the gun in his hand, and then they instructed him to. So he said he came to the door like with the gun, like holding it like that
pistol,
by the barrel. Yeah, and so they took it from him. The old ladies didn't wake up. His aunt and his mom are in the house. They're like 80 years old.
They slept through a murder?
They slept through a murder. Cops were surprised that they slept through the fight because they got 2 grown men in a room next to you. That would have been loud. And he
snapped a fucking
and
post
they said,
off.
wow, I mean, Jesus, I mean, you'd think you'd be surprised in the gunshot. And she went, I didn't hear any gunshot. She didn't even hear a gunshot, so she's useless as a witness at this point. The cops had to get them out of bed basically to go, hey, hold on, this is a murder scene. You guys are gonna have to come outside for a minute.
Outside for us?
Police find a ton of painkillers and Xanax and Valium and shit like that. But these are wrestlers. I mean, this is normal shit for them. Police, of course, call Karen to tell her that Chris is dead.
Right.
Because Chris is dead on the spot. They can't.
Hey, remember that message you should have called?
You should have called. Chris is dead.
Because you can't call him now.
She freaks out. Boo-Ray's arrested for murder. They don't believe his story at first. Yeah, poor Boo-Ray. Exactly.
I actually feel bad for him.
I do too.
He's so dumb.
He's put up with so much shit too. He's gone through some shit.
He's been such a pal.
If you watch the documentary too, because you can hear his voice,
He sopped
you're
up
just
so much jizz.
He's like, oh man, I don't know. I'm just, yeah. He sopped up jizz and cleaned up shitty Taco Bell dogs. Right. He's held in the Ellis County bail. His bail set at $300,000. He's fucked here. He's in jail. Chris is dead. We have some quotes on some of the people about Chris. We have his ex-manager, Gary Hart, who's a great heel manager.
Eulogize him, Gary.
He said, quote, he was one of the greatest people, a true dear friend, but something about when he starts to drink, bad things happen. If it wasn't for alcohol, none of this would have happened.
So you need to listen to this podcast.
Yes, and Steve
He's
Austin.
not a great person.
Steve Austin has a little different obituary and eulogy for him. Steve Austin says, quote, "Gentleman Chris Adams trained me and got my foot in the door in this business at a time when you had to know somebody to get in. He was a pile of crap, though. That's why I didn't comment when Chris died and the Dallas Morning News called me. I wasn't going to run him down in the paper because the guy was dead, but I didn't think a whole lot of him. He was just a picture of insincerity to anyone he ever met. Nobody liked the guy. He was a con man, period." You, sir, may fuck off. That's the best fuck off.
Great.
I wanted to hear a judge say that shit to him. Unbelievable. So his services here, October 10th, 2001, they held his services at Donnelly's Colonial Funeral Home in Irving, Texas. Had the funeral the next day, buried at Oak Grove Memorial Gardens in Irving, Texas. If you want to go check him out, he's in the Garden of Faith section, Lawn Crypt A17. If you want to go find Chris Adams, you can. I don't know why you would. Boo Ray, they end up doing a whole trial for Boo Ray. Boo Ray claiming self-defense the whole time.
Yeah.
And in the end, Boo Ray is acquitted.
Good for Boo Ray.
So Boo Ray is out. Boo Ray is doing well. He's acquitted. I mean, they basically said, we have a guy who's got drunk. He's got a lot of alcohol and drugs in his system, a history of just insane, off-the-charts violence.
From Israel to Miami to the air.
Texas to the sky. We can go miles north above us, and he's hurt people
30,000 feet above the Atlantic.
Let's talk to Brandy and see how it feels to be dragged from a car after being beaten for a couple hours. Unbelievable. So we could talk to Brandy, but we really can't because she dies in 2003 because everything Chris touches turns to shit. Shit. Brandy dies in 2003 of a drug overdose, of course. That's a mess. Now, June 24th, 2010, Tony, his ex-wife, dies at the age of 45.
Wow.
Weird shit, too. She had an abscess in her abdomen, and she went to the hospital and then went home and was back a couple days later and had a horrible cardiac arrest and died.
Wow.
45 years old. So
the abscess must have erupted.
Everything he touches turns to shit.
Everybody loses.
You can check Chris out, some Chris memories out if you want. His children, all of them, launched from different relationships. They launched a website to him, a memorial website on February 26, 2011 called gentlemanchrisadams.com. If you want to go there and he shows a bunch of pictures and highlights. If you guys want to see him like wrestle, just look up Chris Adams World Class. And
I don't want to see anything but fucking death shots.
There's a lot of crime scene photos.
Is there?
I saw one of him from the other room where you could see like his back. He was like basically like hands and knees kind of on the bed, and you can see like his ass and his feet, but you couldn't see the top half of him where the gunshot wound was. So I saw that.
Did it hit him in the head?
They hit him in the head, and
nice.
they also showed like the gun was like next to the Frank and Jesse tape up on the thing, which was kind of funny, and just a mess of a scene.
It was gonna be a fun night.
Oh my God! So guys, that's Chris Adams. He's a fucking mess of epic proportions.
Goodbye, Chris.
A goddamn disaster. Sayonara asshole. Salute.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Friend him and call him a cunt. I don't know what else to say. Wow. What an asshole. And
I hate him.
It would have been better off if he would have stayed in England and done architecture.
No doubt.
And stopped drinking.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have been saved.
Stay out of the booze.
Yeah, one that he killed, his exes that he beat and maimed and everything else. Their kids have no fathers. He had a kid with Brandy, too. That's an orphan.
Yep.
You know, they're both parents dead by 2003.
Thank God for Stone Cold for
horrible,
rescuing the other one for a while.
It's horrible. That's our story. We're going to do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Also, too, the way you can get a shout-out, number one, please, iTunes reviews. 5 stars. Say your following instructions. Say some shit. Really, it helps drive us up the charts. It helps get us sponsors. It just, if you like what we do, that helps us so much. So please do that. Also, too, if you want to throw us a few bucks for our efforts here, patreon.com/crime and sports. You can drop us a few bucks. There's some rewards there if you want it, whatever. But
that's helpful.
Also, too, get a hold of us on social media so we can talk and interact. And a lot of you guys are friending each other and following each other and talking, and we love that so much. You can get a hold of us on Twitter @Crime and Sports. Facebook.com/Crime and Sports, on Instagram @Crime and Sport. Anywhere you can look at Crime and Sports, You can email us, crimeandsports@gmail.com. Find us, talk to us. We love talking to people, and we love interacting with you guys. And here's some people we've been interacting with. Jimmy.
A guy named Daddy Pop wrote that he just found us, and he was binge listening. And then Andrew Bailey and Nathan Bland both tweeted at him and told him to strap in because this is going to be his new favorite podcast. So welcome aboard, Daddy Pop. And Andrew Bailey and Nathan Bland. Thanks for being along for so long, fellas.
I have to say one thing. The good Reverend Jonathan Gilliard started his Twitter account, and his name on Twitter, not just his actual is John Gilliard Rev. We fucking love you.
That's gorgeous.
We love you, dude. You have no idea, brother.
And Nina D. Hurd wrote me on Instagram. She followed me, and I followed her back because that's just what I do. And she wrote me some of the nicest things I've ever heard about the podcast. So thanks, Nina,
sweet. We
for saying
appreciate
such cool things.
We appreciate
Jeanette
it so much.
Kozad and a new one, Carl Rushtrand. Thank you.
Definitely.
Aria Moore, Derek Hans, and Taylor Wilson, Lee Brown, and Linda Bailey. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Also to Michelle Shannon Grisso sent us from Boise, Idaho. She had sent us something before, sent us another really nice message saying how she's going back and re-listening to all the shows and just loves it. And we can't thank you enough, Shannon and Boise. You
Thanks for giving a shit, you guys, because this is really fun when there's this many people involved. It's really fucking
Thank
beautiful.
you guys. We're trying to grow. We're trying to get more sponsors and more things and do better shows. And we have new stuff coming up that we're still working on. We'll keep you guys updated on it. This is not all we're going to be doing. We have more stuff coming at you. We're going to have a good time. But this is it, guys. Thank you so much. We can't do it without you guys. Right. Honestly, we don't have a network, and we're not really looking for one. But we don't really have a network. We don't have anybody pushing us. I mean, Audio Boom helps us when they can a little bit, but they're not a network like that. They can't push us to iTunes and shit like that, like all these other motherfuckers that put out a goddamn preview episode and they're like number fucking 2 on the charts. Are you fucking kidding me? You put out 4 fucking... They have fucking no reviews and one fucking preview episode of 4 minutes and they're number 2 on the fucking charts. There's ones that are number 1, Jimmy. Number 1. We've been breaking our fucking balls for 8 months. We have more listeners than half these motherfuckers on their goddamn top 150 iTunes chart in America and fucking society and culture. Son of a fucking bitch. And these cocksuckers get fucking a 4-minute preview episode telling you what they're going to do.
What they're gonna do.
Bullshit. And then have a bunch of people who work for their network write a fucking review saying, this is going to be great, I can't wait. Normal people don't fucking do that.
Rated?
They get rated.
Ranked.
And then people will give them 1-star reviews going, how the fuck are all these people giving 5-star reviews when nothing's come out yet?
Happened.
And by the way, you haven't put shit out yet. How are you number 1? And that's what it is. So you know what? Help us. Get us on so we don't have a network pushing us to bullshit things.
We're working our balls off for this, and they've got
for real
half-assing it. Not even That's not even half-assing.
That's
not even giving it an attempt.
No,
it's just saying one day I'm going to do some shit.
I do more fucking work on this goddamn thing fucking Monday morning than these cocksuckers have done forever, and we get nothing. That's fine though. You know what? Fuck them. You guys keep helping us. Keep listening. Tell your friends. Because it's all you guys. Crime and Sports Movement, it's you guys. It's not us. It's out of our hands at this point. Thank you guys so much for
Thanks for pushing us.
That giant angry thing was to say thank you guys. Because you guys are real listeners that actually enjoy what we do. And we thank you so much for listening each and every week.
Stick around.
Stick around, guys. Jim, you want to give them your social media?
I'm at Wisman Sucks on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, WHISMAN Sucks.
And I am at Jimmy P is funny, and you can find me on, look for my last name, Petrogallo. Good luck finding it. It's a scavenger hunt to spell my last name. It's got an I in there somewhere.
Best of luck following him.
Good luck, fuckers.
I dare you to make me successful.
You can call me a cunt. I don't know. You can find my name through the podcast. No big deal. Look us up, though. Thank you, guys. We love you so much.
Just for you.